Client service rep Patty Lynn Moore is suing her ex-boyfriend, forklift repairman Donald Hightower, for an unpaid loan to keep him from foreclosure.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 112 on the calendar in the matter of Moore versus Hightower.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Miss Moore, you and the defendant had dated, and according to your complaint, you made loans to him.
Right.
One large loan for his mortgage, and then some small loans for credit card charges. Mr. Hightower indicates that you did pay this money, but there was never a loan agreement and never an agreement to repay you. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
When did you start to date the defendant?
Several months after my son was murdered.
When was that?
March of 2000. Probably about 3 or 4 months after that.
What was the first loan for and when?
In July of 2000, Donald showed me a letter that, the mortgage company had wrote, which showed that they were going to foreclose on his house.
I'd like to see the letter. Now, where were you when he showed you that letter?
At his house.
Were you living with him at the time?
No.
I want you to tell me the exact scenario that came about when he showed you this letter.
Can I kind of tell you what led up to this, my frame of mind? Yeah.
No. I don't want to know about your frame of mind. What I want to know about is the conversation, where you were. It's clear if you were dating him, then you liked him.
Right.
Also, based upon what you told me, what happened to your son in March, you were vulnerable, you were feeling slightly depressed. I understand that. However, this is still a situation where we have to deal with whether this was a loan or not a loan.
Okay.
So I want you to tell me where you were seated in the house, what the conversation was that led up to him showing you this letter.
Okay. I was sitting in the lazy boy chair, and he had all his bills right there, and he showed me the letter.
And he just took this letter and said,
well,
take a look at this?
Everything was sitting right there, and he showed me this letter, because we were talking about how he couldn't, afford to, take me out to dinner, and, he felt bad about it.
It was in that context that he showed you this letter, I can't afford to
Right.
go out to dinner or
Right.
whatever because I have all these bills.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I had a lot of money at the time because of the life insurance policy from my son's death. And I felt really bad, because, he has these 2 wonderful children. One, she has Down syndrome, and she is a sweetheart. She's just so full of life. And I just couldn't see these children, August 4th, they were going to foreclose on the house, and where were they going to go? I felt terrible. And I'm trying to be a fixer-upper. I was trying to help him fix the situation. I know that I get a lot of money back from my taxes just claiming one child. So I knew when he gets his taxes back, he'll get $3,000 or $4,000, probably more than I do. And in order for me to negotiate with this Equicorp, place, I called, them up, and I said, well, what can we do to get this, straightened out? And they said, well, this amount of money needs to be mailed. So in order to, get him above water, I went and paid $4,500 towards it.
You have proof of that?
Yes, I do. This is a copy of the money order and the original.
Okay. Now after that, what did he say to you?
I'm trying to remember. This was a couple of years ago.
Well, you have to remember.
Your Honor, may I answer that?
No, not yet.
Well, he told me that he had other bills, and that wasn't really going to get him out of, hot water, because he was behind on all these credit cards. He had the banks, calling him constantly. He didn't like to answer the phone because of that. He said, well, I can't pay you back right away. And I said, I know. I said, I don't need the money right now. I have the money right now. I said, but, when you get your taxes back, just go ahead, and give me some money. And you don't have to give me the whole thing. I said, the next year, which was this year right here, give me the rest of the money, and that'll be that. And I said, you don't even have to pay me back the whole thing. It was over $7,000 is what it was. And I said, well, if you'll just make sure you pay me, I'll accept the $4,000.
So you agreed that he would pay you back $4,000?
Not at that time. This was later.
So at that time you didn't talk about him repaying you the money?
Oh, we did. We did, with his taxes, but we didn't negotiate a figure.
Okay. Well, when did you negotiate a figure?
February, I had wrote a letter to him, February 5th, which is right about tax time.
Could I see the letter, please?
And I was like, something was better than nothing.
Would you show this letter to the defendant, please? You recall receiving that letter, Mr. Hightower?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Good, thank you. When you received that letter, Mr. Hightower, what did you do?
I read it,
And after you read it, what did you do with it?
tore it up and threw it in the trash.
Why?
Because when she did this, I told her not to do it because at the time, I was going through the separation and divorce, also going through a custody hearing. I told her that I not know when I'd ever be able to pay her back.
Are you still living in the house that she...
No, ma'am.
Who got the house?
It's been put on a lot for sale now. I moved out the end of February of this year.
Why?
They foreclosed on it in December.
How many months did you live there after summer of 2000?
I moved out of it February of 2002 of this year.
Oh, so her money helped you stay in that home.
I guess, but also too my
What do you
lawyer.
mean you guess?
My lawyer also helped. My
Right.
attorney knew what was going on. My
You had a
attorney helped
lawyer?
me. Yes, ma'am. When I was going
Lawyer
through
for the custody case?
custody,
and the
separation, and
divorce?
divorce, yes.
Did you pay your lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you pay your lawyer?
$1,500.
Do you still owe your lawyer?
No, ma'am.
So you took this letter and you threw it in the garbage.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lot of nerve. You mean you didn't even answer her?
Ma'am, also, too, you got to realize a lot of things going on with her. One time she broke in my house just to show her brother my home through the kitchen and come back bragging about it.
So what?
The next time she went through my mail, took a credit card out of my mailbox.
Stop complaining. I'm asking you a question, sir. You get this letter, you don't respond to it, you take it and you throw it in the garbage. And then what you do is you justify those actions by little petty irritations. I'm asking you, if you couldn't give her back any money, and she clearly expected money over a year ago, why didn't you call her or write her a letter and say, I'm really suffering financially right now?
She knew I was.
How did she know?
She knew how I was.
What do you mean she knew? Were you in communication with her?
She knew that I was trying to raise 2 kids by myself.
Did you get custody of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
Then I suggest that you try to teach your children, Mr. Hightower, what being a person of good character is. You know, just because you're a warm body doesn't mean you're a father. Anything can be a father. Dogs are fathers, cats are fathers, fish are fathers. In order to be a father, a human being father, you're supposed to try to teach your children to have a good moral character. Somebody was nice to you. And what you do is you take the letter, you throw it in the garbage without even a response? Huh?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do you think there's a difference between going through a separation and a divorce and having one of your children suddenly taken from you?
Both of them are very emotional.
One you can cure, one you can't.
And later today,
I was not that close to her. She sped up to go around me.
She's trying to get away from you. If she sped up, she would have hit you straight on. Duh.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Hattie Lynn Moore says ex-boyfriend Donald Hightower owes for a loan to keep his home out of foreclosure. Donald says he told Patty Lynn he could never pay her back.
After you loaned him this money, Ms. Moore, how long after that did you stop seeing him socially?
Almost immediately.
And who terminated the relationship?
He did.
Tell me about it.
He didn't see that there was any, he didn't think that we would be able to have a relationship at the time. I was drinking some at the time. No excuse, but...
That's honest.
Alcohol is no place in any relationship, nor is it in anybody's life. It's like a disease. It just ruins.
Are you okay now?
Yeah, as far as the drinking, like I said, just bringing up this emotional stuff, I don't think, you don't ever get over the grieving, I mean, you deal with it, through grievance counseling, but you don't never get over the loss of a child. And
How old was your son?
22. I got the newspaper article.
Mr. Hightower,
Yes, ma'am.
how many children did Miss Moore have?
She had her daughter and her son that she told me about.
And she told you about the son as soon as you met her.
Yes, ma'am.
So you knew that shortly before this business with your home, she had suffered a loss and she had some money.
I didn't know she had any money. I never asked her.
Fine. So let's say you didn't know she had any money, but you knew she had suffered a loss.
Yes, ma'am, and I was sorry that happened.
And you were going through a great deal of turmoil in your life.
Yes, ma'am.
But none of your children died.
No, ma'am.
You think there's a difference between going through a separation and a divorce and having one of your children suddenly taken from you? You think there's a difference? You think there's a difference?
Both of them are very emotional.
Yeah. One you can cure, one you can't. And what I find most obnoxious about your behavior, sir, is that you didn't even bother to respond to this letter. You read it, you tore it up, and you threw it in the garbage because you were going through a great deal of stuff on your own. That's what you told me. Good character is what you're supposed to teach your children. If you don't have it, and they don't give classes for it, can't read a book on it, at least once in a while somebody is going to tell you when you have lousy character. You understand each other? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,400. Thank you, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She wants everybody to play her on her sympathy.
There's nothing in this world worse than losing a child.
She's just trying to rule people's lives with her own.
I have the right to grieve.
She was just trying to steal my identity.
I don't think he has any identity.
I best just get rid of him, get on with my life.
When a loser is a loser, you're a loser. Why would I want to take the identity of a loser?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Berrios versus Rivera, step forward, please.
15-year-old student Wandalise Berrios and her mother, social worker Maria Berrios, are suing Wandalise's boyfriend, 18-year-old Eric Rivera, and his mother, business owner Miriam Rivera. Maria says Miriam ran her off the road and vandalized her car.
Miss Berrios, is this your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. And is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
You sit down. Miss Berrios, it's your claim that Mrs. Rivera vandalized your car with you in it. Is that right?
That's correct.
And Miss Rivera says that she was angry, but she did not, in fact, damage your car at all. Now, what I gather is that your daughter was dating her son. Correct? These two.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And it's your claim that Mrs. Rivera didn't like the idea of her son dating your daughter. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
You weren't happy with this relationship?
Correct.
So why don't you tell me what happened on the day that your car was allegedly vandalized?
On July 3rd, her son called my daughter, and they want to meet us in the fireworks.
Okay, so it was July 4th weekend, there were fireworks.
On the 3rd,
and
yes.
Did he come to your house or did you pick him up?
And we met him in the fireworks in Altamont.
Is that right?
Yes,
You met where at a park or something where they were having fireworks?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. You watched the fireworks, and then you were ready to go home?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Good. Now tell me what happened.
Okay, when we dropped him off in his house, and the defendant, she drove in front of my car, and she started yelling, threatening, and she tried to break my window, and her son came up and went right there in front of us.
Just a second. She's in her car, you're in your car.
Correct.
Did she get out of her car?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get out of your car?
No, Your Honor.
You stayed in your car, but she pulled up in front of you, cut you off,
Correct. Yes, Your Honor.
and got out of her car. What about her son? Did he get out of the car?
We dropped him already. He was in his house.
Okay, so he came out of the house.
He ran out of the house, and he stepped between the defendant and I, right there by the window, because she tried to break the window with her
Elbow.
elbow.
And you're sitting in the driver's seat.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what did she do?
And I did not respond to her request because the prior incident that I have with her, that she assaults me. So I did not respond to her request. And
She wanted you to get out of the car?
yes, that way she could fight me. So I did not get out of the car, and I told my daughter, let's leave here, because prior to that, she grabbed since I don't open the window, she grabbed my windshield wiper. She smashed it because she was really mad and broke it. And then with her both fists, she was really pissed and bumped my car. So at that time, I told my daughter, let's get out of here, let's report it. I went on reverse, I left the scene. She continued following me to my house. That's what I found out. I went to the police report, and I reported. And I put an injunction on Miss Rivera.
You have photographs of the car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I see it, please? Are you two young people still dating each other or not?
Yes.
So I assume you don't want to be here.
No.
You don't want to be here.
No.
You don't want to be here. Is that right?
No.
Okay. Okay. Ready to hear you.
Well, the incident on actually the 3rd of the morning of the 4th of July happened all because my son and his girlfriend Diana was attending my child who's mentally handicapped and my daughter, which is 11 years old. This lady had the audacity to go out there and pick him up, left my 2 children alone with another 17-year-old child when he and her were supposed to watch my children, where my son walked away and got lost in the park where the fireworks were. And it was almost 2 in the morning by the time I was able to pick up my children from the park in the traffic. And when I got home, she was just dropping him off without no permission of mine, no knowledge where my son was. And I knew he was with her because his girlfriend, Diana.
That's not Diana.
No, that's not Diana.
He has 2 girlfriends.
Yes. And it might be 3, but right now 2. Anyway, when I got home, yes, I was very furious. Capable of, even if she would have got out of the car, I would have smacked her really good, because how a mother could leave a child who is mentally handicapped.
And just slap him.
Well, I did that.
Why just slap him? What are you slapping her for?
Because she's the adult. She should have left him where he was.
Just a second. You're not claiming she picked him up at your house.
No, she went behind my back as a parent and picked him up in the park.
How do you know that? That she went behind your back? How is she supposed to read your mind about what arrangements you had with your son?
Because she knew.
How does she know?
Because he told her.
Oh, baloney. But you're assuming that.
True.
You're assuming that.
True.
How tall are you?
6 foot.
6 feet. Healthy, right?
As far as I know.
How old are you?
18.
And an adult. And if he's 17, he was still 6 feet tall and very healthy.
Yes.
Right? Are you suggesting to me, Miss Rivera, that your son went to Miss Berrios and said, I'm supposed to be minding my 2 siblings, but I'm going to blow them off and leave them here by themselves. So could you please give me a ride home? Is that what you think you said to her? That's what you're assuming, because you want to be mad at somebody instead of being mad at him. You're mad at her. What are you mad at her for?
Because it's not the first incident that this happens.
Put the blame where it's supposed to be. By the way, where were you July 3rd?
I was at my house.
Why weren't you taking care of your children?
Because he was old enough to do it, and he wanted to go to Red Hot and Boom.
He was old enough to do it because you thought he was responsible enough
Correct.
to do it. Clearly, he wasn't.
Well, I learned my lesson in that part.
So that was your error in judgment. You don't take that out on her car.
I did not touch her car, ma'am.
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. There is no question in my mind that you broke the windshield wipers off her car and smashed down with your fist on her car, causing a dent. Absolutely no question in my mind. And I'm not going to put these 2 young people in a position of having to testify, because it just seems unfair to have to do that. I don't know if this is the girlfriend you want to be with or one of your other 2. That's your business. By the way, he probably does have other girlfriends. You understand that?
Yes.
Let me see the estimates of the damage to the car. Do you work?
Yes. No, ma'am.
What do you do?
I'm a student.
Where?
Lighthouse Christian Academy.
I have 3 estimates, and the cheapest estimate to do the work is $1321.89. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
You know that they're still dating?
Yes.
You resigned yourself to that?
Actually, as long as he lives under my roof and I pay for his school, he had to abide by my laws.
Which is?
They want to see themselves, they could see themselves out of her house. I don't want him in her house because they're in illegal activities. And if he's in her house and there is a bus in her house and my son is put in jail for something that he haven't done, I'm going to hold her responsible for my
Why
son's
don't you hold
liberty.
him responsible? He's 18 years old. He's 6 feet 1. You think that she can keep him out of her house?
Yes, she don't have to open the door.
Miss Rivera, you rely on him a lot?
Yes, I do.
I assume that you did rely on him a lot.
Yes, I'm a single parent. I raised them by myself.
You got to corral him. If you can't do it, don't expect other people to do it. If he doesn't follow your directions, and what you're saying is as long as he's living under my roof, breathing the air that I pay for, turning on the electricity that I pay for, eating the food that I pay for, then go out, get yourself a job, live on your own. You can do whatever you want to do.
That's right.
Your problem is that he is of help to you in the house taking care of your 13-year-old son.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,321.89. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm glad that the justice is being made because I want to show to the defendant that the violence don't resolve any problem.
Well, I guess I got an iron fist since I made that much damage in the car.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Massey Colbert versus Travis. Step forward, please.
20-year-old military cadet Destiny Massey and her boyfriend, 21-year-old construction worker Jack Colbert, are suing Jack's sister, 22-year-old homemaker Paula Travis, for stealing their personal property. And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gilbert versus Cockrell. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Carlene Gilbert is suing her former lover, sales manager Donald Cockrell, for a series of unpaid loans. Donald is countersuing for harassment and threats.
Mrs. Gilbert, you claim a series of loans to the defendant, who you briefly dated according to your complaint. The defendant says that there was never a loan agreement, and he is counterclaiming for harassment after he decided to return to his wife. Is that right?
Somewhat not my wife. We just decided to reconcile, try and reconcile.
You decided to reconcile with who?
The mother of my child.
All right, Miss Gilbert, tell me where and when you met the defendant.
I met Mr. Cockrell on April 4th of this year, playing a game on the internet. I played several games with him on there, met him later on the internet when he would get home from work and play card games and such with him. And within about a week or so, we were talking on the phone for very long periods of time.
Okay. You live close by to each other?
No.
We were over 1,000 miles away.
So you met him on April 4th, 2002, and when was the first loan, and what was it for?
He showed up in my hometown on May 2nd.
What do you mean he showed up?
He showed up. He called me on the phone, told me he was there in town. And my husband and I were having a lot of problems. We were in the process of a divorce.
Okay.
He stayed in town for a couple of days. When he left, we had made plans that after my divorce was final that he was going to come back and get me and get my belongings. And at that time, I gave him $200 in order to be able to pay for the gas and stuff for him to come back and get me with. And after he got home, he called me on the phone and he said, gosh, guess what happened? When I was in Kansas City, I stopped at a convenience store to get gas and I left my wallet sitting there. Didn't realize it was missing till I got to St. Louis, turned around, went back, found my wallet, but the money wasn't in it. And at that time asked me if I could send him money to help him pay his car payment, his car insurance, and his rent, which I did. I sent him a check for $700.
Okay, go ahead.
After that, a few weeks later, my husband had found out that he had been into town and threw a complete fit, which we understand why, but I was afraid at that time. I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew my husband had a very violent temper. So I called Donald on the phone and asked him if he could come and get me at that time. And the next day he showed up there to pick me up and take me back. At that time he paid for the gas in order to get there to get me, and everything else on the way back I paid for.
But he did come back and get you.
He did come back and get me, but I had to pay for it.
Well, how much did you give him in addition to that?
The $700 that I loaned to him to pay his car payment and his insurance, $220 to pay his utilities when we got back to the house and he said they were going to shut his stuff off, $80.85 for a shop fan that he wanted to buy for his father for Father's Day, which I do have the receipt for that one, and also the check for the $700.
All right, Mr. Cockrell, there came a time when she gave you $700. She said it was for rent and other bills and a car payment that you fell a little behind on. Is that true, sir?
No, ma'am. I did get $700 from her. It's when I had went up there and visited her at my own expense the first time. She did know I was coming. She said something about her husband was a truck driver and he'd be out of town. And I came, no problem with that. When I left, as soon as I got back home, I guess she enjoyed the couple of days I was there. She asked me if, when her boys got out of school at the end of May, if I would come back and get her. And I said, well, already taking time from work, that I wouldn't have the money because I spent a lot of money coming up there. She said, I'll pay for you to come get me and keep me until the divorce date, which was supposed to have been early July, if there was one.
Right.
And I said, okay, no problem. I told her that if I came back and got her, I'd need enough money to cover gas, motel stay, and I would be missing probably 2 days of work because it's a 17-hour drive straight through. I'd be missing at least 2 days of work. I'd try to put it around a weekend. And then she asked me, she said, would $700 be enough for you? I said, that should be efficient. I don't, you know, I kind of thought it was a little more, but I said, yeah, I know it'll cover.
Did she pay for a gift for your father?
No, ma'am.
She didn't?
No, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What responsibility do you think you owe to your 2 children?
To be a father and
To
a provider.
be there, not to be in some prison. Because you've just said to the entire world that if anything happens to him, the first person to come looking for is you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carlene Gilbert says, shortly after meeting Donald Cockrell on the internet, he started borrowing money. Donald says the money was never a loan.
Time for you to tell me about harassment, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a counterclaim for $2,000 because you allege that she harassed you after you decided to reconcile with the mother of your child.
Yes, ma'am. One day she calls, and my son's mother is there to pick my son up from me having him for the weekend, and she answers the phone, and that's when everything hit the fan. That's when all these threatening emails come in.
Can I see those, please?
This is one I highlighted. I know you probably want to read through all of them, but it's all of them right there.
These are pretty nasty.
I was pretty upset.
This is what?
Them letters I handed you is Jimmy Gilbert has never lived at my address. And when she left, she had did a change of address. And there was no more mail coming. All of a sudden, the mail started coming again. I don't know why. I know I got a call from her one day that her husband, she was going to tell her husband my address so he could come down there and take care of me. And he did come to my town and stopped at the post office and asked the Postmaster General if he knew me, saying he was an old friend of mine
Step
from
up
school.
here.
Said that he was-
You're the former husband?
Yes.
Did you go to his hometown?
Yes, I did.
What for?
To look for him.
What for?
Little payback.
What does that mean?
Well, we was having trouble in our marriage, and he stuck his nose in it. Should have kept it in South Carolina.
Why do you always look to blame somebody else? Your wife enticed him just as much as he got himself into the situation. How do you know what she said to him?
I don't.
That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You have no idea what your wife said to him to entice him to drive 1,000 miles down to where she was living. You have no clue. Why would you risk anything to go there to start up with him? Isn't that dumb?
I don't think so.
Right, well, it is. Really stupid.
I don't think
What
it's
if
any
she told
dumber
him-
than sticking your nose into a marriage. He knew she was married. He should have stayed home. He should have waited for the divorce. He didn't bother to do that. Now he's got to deal with me on it.
Really?
Yes, Your Honor. This is her day. I'll have mine.
Mr. Gilbert, you have 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
What responsibility do you think you owe to your 2 children?
To be a father and a
To
provider.
be there. To be there. That's the first thing. Not to be in some prison. Because you've just said to the entire world that if anything happens to him, the first person to come looking for is you.
Yes, ma'am.
And is that stupid? Don't you feel as if your primary responsibility is not to her, is to 2 innocent children who deserve to have a parent, or 2, that would be nice, to be around to bring them up? And why? Just because your manhood has been, according to you, questioned. Why would you jeopardize your children for that?
Matter of pride.
Well, that's stupid, sir. You don't have the right to be that prideful when you have to take care of 2 children. Who's going to take care of your 2 children when you're not there? It's not worth it. You owe it to your children for it not to be worth it.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
There's no question in my mind that there was a little bit of harassment here.
Yes.
No question. The little bit of harassment, sir, is exactly the amount of money that you took from her. Exactly. Do you understand? That means that both of you end up with walking away with a non-judgment, but a little bit of good advice from me. Get on with your life and forget about him. Don't go back there looking for him anymore, sir.
Yes,
That's smart. You owe it to your children. Your wife has metza judgment. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
She doesn't
ma'am.
have such good judgment. I don't know whether you have better judgment, but your children certainly should have one parent that has reasonable judgment. And if you're the one with the reasonable judgment, you better be around to raise them. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I feel I was taken advantage of, but I feel I led myself into it.
I didn't take advantage of it. Somebody called asking for help.
It was my own fault that I got taken advantage of.
Feared for their life, worried about the kids. I offered some help.
I think he used her. I think he interfered in something he should have kept his nose out of.
All I can say is that I guess I better stop being so nice to the women, whether they married or not, so they won't continue to stalk me across the country.
Don't meet anybody off the internet.
Accountant Cindy Yoakum is suing her ex-boyfriend, car salesman Andrew Montgomery, for bail money and for the cost of a trip to California.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 476 on the calendar in the matter of Yoakum versus Montgomery. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Miss Yoakum, you and the defendant had a relationship which is no longer, and it is your claim that Mr. Montgomery owes you for half a trip that you took together to California. And in addition, there is still a remaining balance that he owes you on some bail money that you wired for him, which allowed his get-out-of-jail almost free card. Mr. Montgomery says that the trip to California that you took was a gift, and that while he does acknowledge that you posted bail for him at one point, he says he's paid you the entire $500 back. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, tell me about this trip to California. When did you take it, and what were the circumstances?
Your Honor, Mr. Montgomery in August had offered to take me on vacation for my birthday, which is September 9th. Offered to pay for it with the check for vacation that he had been anticipated on receiving.
I don't know. Ms. Yoakum, listen to me. There are certain things that ring true.
Right.
Boyfriends say, I want to take you on a vacation. Let's go on a vacation.
Right.
Great. Where do you want to go? I want to go to
California.
California. Boyfriend doesn't say, I'm going to pay for it with a check that I'm going to get from my job when I left, and my... You don't discuss.
At that point in time, I was not able to afford to go. And
so let's go back a little bit. It's August, and
Yep.
you discuss going on a vacation.
Yes.
Tell me where you were when you first started to discuss going on the vacation.
We were at my home discussing going on vacation for my birthday. He had told me that he was going to pay for the entire trip from a vacation check from his former employer.
Tell me how he said that to you.
I said, I can't afford to go on this trip right now.
So he didn't say to you, I want to take you on a trip for your birthday.
Yes, he did.
Now, shh. Miss Yoakum, listen to me carefully. If he said, I want to take you on a trip for your birthday, then you wouldn't have had any discussion with him about, I can't pay for it now. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Don't fudge the truth. The truth may be all that you need. But when I ask you what was said, you're going to tell me exactly what was said. Because if he said to you, I'm taking you away for your birthday, your response would not have been, I can't afford to go now. Because that wouldn't have been a logical response. Logical response would have been, oh, great. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Right.
Okay, now let's go. Let me hear your version.
What happened is she wanted to go away for a weekend. It was Labor Day weekend, and I had a long weekend off at work. Now, since I had a long weekend off at work, she said, let's go get away, and we're trying to decide where to go. I said, well, I don't have any money on me. I didn't have much money. I just started work at a job closer to her home. And I did get a check right before I went. I said, well, I have a check before I go. All I'll have is spending money. She said, don't worry about it. I'll purchase the tickets. I'll get the hotel wherever we're going to stay and take what money you have and use that for spending money, which I did.
And you went away Labor Day weekend?
Yes.
Yes, I have the receipts for the amounts charged on my credit card.
Let me see. What's Tiffany and Company?
Jewelry store.
I know what it is. What'd you buy there?
I bought a necklace.
For who?
Me.
Well, why is that here?
I just highlighted everything because he had told me he was taking me and he would pay for everything.
No, dear. You don't get it. The only thing I don't see here really is restaurants. Only one restaurant.
We took a large sum of money. I withdrew over $500. He had the $400 from his check, and then an additional $200 that I withdrew from my ATM.
Okay, just a minute. So he had $400 that he took with him?
Yes.
That he spent?
And I also have money that I took. I didn't feel that he should pay for, you know, if I wanted any, like, souvenirs
necklaces.
or anything.
Shh. Okay, Mr. Montgomery, when you came back from this vacation, were you working, sir?
Yes.
What kind of job were you working at?
I was at a car dealership.
So why didn't you start paying her for at least part of this trip, your airline tickets and
I
the
sure
rental
did.
car?
Every paycheck I got, I gave her $300 here, $400 there. I gave her plenty of money.
Were you living together?
Yes, we were.
How long did you live together?
5 months. Oh,
Is that right?
5 months.
August 5th. I do have a record of every time.
Just tell me how long you lived together.
August 5th.
To when?
Or, I'm sorry, about August 5th to December 5th.
Okay. And he would give you money every month? Or every week from his paycheck?
He gave me some, a little bit here and there. I have wrote down every amount that he's ever given me.
Let me see it. Bert.
And I gave it to him when...
Let me see it. What, I missed something. I missed something.
Oh, yes.
What did I miss? What did he say? A couple of months, 3? But like, what did he do? No, I really want to know.
Okay.
It was 5, but I only have, I forgot, I only got 4 fingers on his hand.
His right hand.
So.
And then he switched up, and it was...
I know I missed something.
It was a moment.
All right, let's get to the bail. Oh. Why were you arrested, sir?
From a previous relationship, a crazy ex-girlfriend. We went through some problems. It had nothing pertaining to do with us.
So you were arrested on an assault charge or domestic violence?
It was a home invasion charge.
I have that right here if you'd like.
When we got back from California,
can I take a look at it?
she went and bought a wedding dress. She wanted to get married that soon. She went and purchased a wedding dress.
Mr. Montgomery, I'm talking about your arrest. You're talking to me about wedding veils. Did these two things have anything to do with each other?
No.
Good. And if you thought that you were going to get me off track just because of my age, you are not going to be successful, sir. What was the date that you posted this bond?
The date of the bond was, it was 2 days, 3 days before Thanksgiving, right before Thanksgiving, like a week before
November,
maybe.
sir, and you separated...
It was in November, yes.
November. You separated shortly thereafter in December.
Yes, I was at work, and she came to my work at 8 o'clock at night in the freezing cold.
Whatever.
With all my belongings.
With her wedding
Here,
dress.
Go out.
Okay. How much did he pay you back?
He paid me $220.
Okay. So far, I am satisfied that he owes you $280 for the bond. I'm not so sure about the trip.
He actually asked...
I would like you to tell me why it was that after 5 months living together, you chose to evict him in the fashion that you did.
We had a lot of arguments, and frankly, he scared me. His ex-girlfriend had brought him in on domestic violence charges.
And you thought this was the safest way of dealing with it?
I thought it was the safest way. I had my friend with me. I wasn't
So
sure
you were
what he
afraid
would
of him?
do. I was afraid. He made 2 death threats to me.
You were afraid of him?
Yes.
Well, then my question is, and I know that this will sound a little naive to you, if you were afraid of him, why did you subsequently decide to have any contact with him?
He told me he would pay me back before Christmas so that I would have money.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If you're really afraid of somebody and you fear for your life, why would you sue somebody for a couple of bucks if you got them out of your life and they were gone? So that you would have contact with them again, even if it's only briefly.
Your Honor, because I have PPO papers prepared and ready to go as soon as I get home.
What's PPO?
Personal protection order.
Why would you bother with that, though? My question is, why would you bother?
Because I've been in contact with his ex-girlfriend. I know what he's like. I know
Just a minute. What contact have you had with him since he left in December?
I haven't spoken to him.
So he hasn't... Shh. You haven't spoken to him? He hasn't called you?
He kept calling me until the 20th of December.
So several months went by and it's no contact. So why do you have an application ready for a protective order?
Because I'm being called as a witness in his felony trial.
Being called in his felony trial by his ex-girlfriend as a witness?
Yes.
So you got together with the ex-girlfriend?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I did try to contact her,
Which
and she
is what?
refused to sign.
Just a minute. What do you want?
She was harassing me.
I didn't. I'm not looking at you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Yoakum says ex-boyfriend Andrew Montgomery owes for bail money and for a trip to California. Andrew says it was her idea to take the trip.
It sounds to me as if you want nothing more to do with him and wanted to sever all ties and just get on with your life, you've certainly complicated it, and that was your own doing.
Yes, I realize that.
Good. So it was very foolish. She owes you $280 for the bail. The trip, hope you enjoyed it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's got a history of using women. I thought she might help me out.
She went and bought a wedding dress. Right after we got back from California, wanted to get married. I wasn't ready to get married, and I didn't want to get married to her.
Let me see, he's asked me to marry him, he's asked his ex-girlfriend to marry him, and the one before that. He basically takes whoever's got the most money and uses them for whatever he can get.
She contacted me after she booted me out, after she kicked me out, left me in the cold. She called me, had me come up and visit her 3 different times.
He's got home invasion charges. Why am I the person that is the bad person in this case?
Rita Candia is suing her ex-boyfriend, advertising salesman Julio Castro, for bail money and unpaid rent. Julio says it was Rita's fault he went to jail.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 460 on the calendar in the matter of Candia versus Castro. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Candia, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time, and you have a child together.
Yes.
You don't live together anymore, and according to your complaint, he owes you for bail money. He had been arrested on a domestic violence complaint. I assume you were the victim in that domestic violence complaint.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you want him to pay his portion of the remainder of the lease on the apartment that you live in, despite the fact that you put him out of the house. You say he's responsible for it, he's on the lease, he should pay. When was he arrested for domestic violence?
On November 16th.
What were the circumstances of his arrest?
We went to a wedding. It was Julio and my daughter and myself.
How old's your daughter?
She's 1.5 years.
Okay.
And Julio was drinking quite a bit. I asked him to slow down, but he chose not to. He got pretty intoxicated. He got to the point where he wasn't really coordinated in his walk, so we left, and he started to get belligerent in the car.
So you were driving and he was in the passenger seat?
I have a van, so he was in the back with the baby in the car seat.
What was he doing in the back?
He was yelling a lot of names at me, getting really
nasty.
Yes. And I was concerned about my daughter. She was awake and she saw him acting this way. And I told him to stop. He wouldn't, so I told him to get out of the car. I pulled over, told him to get out. First he refused, and then he got out. And then I realized that we were on a busy street. It was in San Francisco. And knowing that he was not walking right, I didn't want him to get hit by a car, so I came out of the car and I asked him to be respectful to me, and I would, drive him home and stuff like that. And he kept arguing with me, and it turned violent at that point.
What do you mean it turned violent? What happened?
Well, he started to urinate on a tree. And
on a busy street in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds charming.
And I guess he thought it was funny. He started to urinate on my shoe.
Well, he thought it was funny again. Yeah.
He started to urinate on my shoe, and I kind of pushed him away. But I guess he thought I was attacking him, and he just started basically hitting me.
And somebody called the police?
Those 3 ladies in a car were honking the horn at him to stop.
And they must have called the police?
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they arrested you. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Perfect! Exactly what should have happened, right?
Yes.
You don't think anything else should have happened, right?
No.
You were drunk. You were abusive. You were urinating in public. You were hitting her, pushing her. So you should have been arrested, right?
Yes, Your Honor, but may I?
Sure. I want to hear you.
You know, we have a commitment. We make a commitment to each other. That,
No, you didn't. What kind of commitment do you have?
Well, if I drink, she drives, and if she...
Oh, I thought you were talking about a marriage commitment,
No,
sir.
no, no.
Oh, no. You have a commitment that if you drink, she drives. And if she drinks, you drive.
I drive, right.
Good. So you have an arrangement, not a commitment.
Arrangement,
A
I'm
commitment
sorry.
is something that two people
Right.
usually have together when they start a family,
Okay,
when
an
they make a
arrangement,
baby.
sorry.
You know, they go to a minister, they go to a rabbi, they go to a priest, they go to a clerk, they get married. They, you know,
Right.
you do. You know
Okay.
what I'm talking about.
So an arrangement.
You had an arrangement.
Right.
The arrangement was when you drink, she drives you home. So I'm listening. I'm waiting. Let me hear you.
We had similar circumstances when she drinks. She gets
I'm not
violent.
interested in similar circumstances.
Okay.
Did she ever urinate on your foot?
She did worse than that, Your Honor.
I don't want to know.
But I'm not
about it.
here for that, right?
I want you to tell me what happened that day
Okay.
that in any way minimizes your fault, your culpability.
Well, I don't feel that I should pay all the money to her.
Very
we went
few
to a
people
wedding.
do.
She started hitting me, and she did this, pulled me out of the car. I wasn't doing anything back there.
I believe she pulled you out of the car. I believe she did. Listen, just because she's very soft-spoken, I don't necessarily buy into that. You understand that, don't you? Huh?
Yes.
I believe that you grabbed him, pulled him out of the car. And that's why he got out. And you have no right to open up your big fresh mouth in front of a baby.
I wasn't doing that, Your Honor.
Well, why would you think, sir, that she would pull you out of the
She
car?
thought I was on the phone talking to my ex-girlfriend. That's what she pulled
In the
car
back
over.
of the car?
In the van, right.
Were you on the phone?
No. I don't even know my ex-girlfriend's phone number.
Was that true that he was on the phone?
He
Look
was
at
talking,
me.
He was talking to his son on the phone.
You know anything about a phone call to his ex-girlfriend? Look at me. Right here.
I heard him mention
Look at me.
her name, but I asked him
You did. When did you hear him mention her name?
during the conversation with his son.
With his son?
Yeah.
Did that make you angry? Look.
That's what they...
Yep. Did that make you
Yes, I
angry?
questioned him about it.
Okay. Very good. You see what happens, how the worm turns? We get some information? Good. Now, you questioned him about it. We don't question about it. You got angry.
I did question him about it.
And what did he say to you when you questioned him about it?
Nothing. He really didn't have any answer for me. He
You're
just
not-
kind of
I-
looked cross-eyed to me.
Go ahead.
I'm not a violent person. I'm not somebody that's going to drink. I get happy, if anything. And I feel like she provoked me to do what I did. Whatever
You
I
can't
did.
provoke somebody.
Well, and I'm not saying that it was right.
Good. Why don't we just stop there? Nobody can provoke another human being
Exactly.
into indulging themselves in violence. You can't do that. Because you're supposed to be able to
But I
control
was
yourself.
not
That's what
screaming or
makes us
seeing-
different
I wasn't
from
screaming in
animals.
front of my daughter or anything like that.
That's what
After the
makes us-
phone call is when she
mouth-
started.
My mouth is moving. Mr. Castro, human beings control themselves. Animals can't control themselves. And if you drink to a point where you can't control yourself and you just act out the way you feel, you have to be responsible for that. So 3 ladies in a car were so concerned about what they saw that they called the police and you were arrested. And that was the bail. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is he responsible for the bail?
I picked him up. I asked him when we were walking across the street to the bailiff's office. I told him how important I needed that money back.
And what did he say?
He told me he promised he would pay me back every single penny.
Is that right?
I don't remember saying that, Your Honor. I started paying her because it wasn't enough money for the bail, and she told me she needed some money, so I said, okay, I'll give you. So I gave her $500 and
Afterwards, sir.
afterwards.
Don't play with me. After she posted the bail, you started to pay her back.
Yes,
Not on your way over to get the bail, afterwards. And how much did you pay her back?
$500,
That's what she says. Now, how long were you in jail, sir?
16 hours, something like that.
Okay, so not long. So
No.
you got out on the 17th. When you got out, where did you go?
We went back to the house.
Is that right?
Yes.
When did you leave the house?
10 days later, because it was just
Tell me
lot
what
of
happened.
arguing and fightings and
Tell
just
me what
arg-
happened 10 days later.
Well, from the time I got out of jail, maybe the following day, she just, and I understand, she felt like she didn't want me around, and we just kept arguing every day. You see, I had a 14-year-old, and it was arguing all day in front of the kids. calling each other names and just, you know, so.
So you decided to leave?
I decided to leave. I thought it was the best thing for both of us.
Probably true.
For the kids.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
Good. Why do you think he should pay for the balance of the lease?
Because he chose to leave and he's...
No. You didn't want him to stay. And it was dangerous for him to stay. You have a 14-year-old and an infant? Why should they be around constant bickering and quarreling?
True, Your Honor, but, you know, he signed a lease that, you know, he should at least fulfill his lease.
Well, where'd you expect him to live? You
He
can't
lives
pay
with
rent in your house and
He lives with his
someplace
son.
else.
He doesn't pay anything at his son. I don't see why he cannot pay the remainder of the lease.
You should take him to court for child support. He should pay child support.
That's not true, Your Honor. I still pay my son for living there. I don't live there for free.
No. I'm not talking about where you're living now. You pay your son. I'm talking about child support for your baby, sir.
I'm taking care of my baby. You know?
You mean the baby lives with you?
No, I'm helping her with the baby.
What do you mean you're helping her? Tell me.
Giving her money.
How much? It's not an answer.
500.
500 a what?
A month.
When was the last time you gave her $500?
December. Well, I paid the rent that month.
In
I
December?
paid half of the rent, yes.
How much was half of the rent?
$675.
Did he pay half of the December's rent?
Yes, he did.
Okay, what about January?
No.
Why not?
Because we were coming to court.
You have to support your child.
Yes, I do. I know.
She shouldn't have to take you to court to get you to do that. You should do that by yourself. But you have to do that regularly, every week or every 2 weeks or every month.
I never said that I wasn't going to pay child support or I wasn't going to help my daughter.
You have to do it.
I know. I never...
A month went by. So far, I didn't see any money. Where was the money for last month?
I haven't given it to her yet.
Why not?
Well, I was waiting for the court.
What do you mean you were waiting? Child has to eat, right?
Well, she eats all the time. I still go over there and... You know,
Mr. Castro,
I still
Mr.
go
Castro,
to Safeway and get
what
her
you're supposed
food
to do is take care of your responsibilities. Do you understand?
I think I do take care
Well,
of it.
you didn't. A, you didn't take care of your bail. You paid $500 and the bail, according to the plaintiff, was $3,500, leaving a balance of $3,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Let me see the paperwork. So that's not taking care of your responsibility. It's your bail. You acted badly. You failed to control yourself. It's not her bail, it's yours. And you said you would pay her back. And you did give her $500, but then you stopped. I want to know why you stopped. And you have no answer for that? Is this the first time you were arrested for domestic violence, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
First time you were arrested?
No.
When was the last time you were arrested?
1991.
Were you ever incarcerated?
No.
What happened with this case?
He was dismissed. I was supposed to go to court the following Wednesday, and when I showed up for court, they said that the case was dismissed.
Okay. $3,000 he owes you. I don't think he's responsible for the rest of the rent. I think, however, he is responsible for child support. You live there with your 2 children? You have 2 children?
Yes.
Do you get child support for your 14-year-old son?
No.
Why not?
His father's deceased.
So does he get Social Security?
No. He's been deceased since I was 7 months pregnant, so I was very young. I did not do anything about it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
She gave up her business to come and volunteer with yours for nothing? She had her own business. You mean to tell me she gave it up? She wasn't in love with you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rita Candia says, during a night out, ex-boyfriend Julio Castro became drunk and belligerent.
You have to start to pay some child support, Mr. Castro.
I don't have a problem with that, Your Honor.
Very good. How much are you going to pay her?
We talked about between $500 and $600.
When was the last time you talked about it?
Maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
How much money did he give you last month?
Nothing.
Is that right, Mr.
He just
Castro?
gave me maybe diapers.
Right.
Mr. Castro, the first thing I want you to do when you get home is write her out a check. Write her out a check for $500. Because along with certain pleasures that you get from children, you also have responsibilities. So
I don't have a problem with that.
Then start paying. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't feel like it was all my fault.
I didn't pour alcohol down his throat.
We were both drinking.
When the red flags show, listen to it or walk away from it.
23-year-old Christina Irizarry is suing her brother, 22-year-old porter Paul Irizarry, for crashing her motorcycle. Paul is countersuing for doctor bills as a result of the accident.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Now, this is case number 218 on the calendar in the matter of Irizarry versus Irizarry. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat. Ma'am, you also.
Miss Irizarry, I'm going to make short shrift of one part of your case, and that has to do with rent, this little tidbit of rent that you want from the defendant, who's your brother. I want to stay with the claim for the destroyed motorcycle, because that's really the basis of your claim, the destroyed motorcycle. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There's your claim. Your brother doesn't deny that he was riding on your motorcycle. He totaled it. Damage was substantial to the motorcycle, over $3,000. His defense is that you should have had better insurance. And, shh, is that right? And he is counterclaiming because he says if you had better insurance, he wouldn't have had to have paid all the medical bills when he was injured when he had this accident with your motorcycle. So that is his counterclaim, and he is counterclaiming for $5,000. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
When did you get this motorcycle, Miss Irizarry?
Actually 2 months before he wrecked it on me.
And how much did you pay for it?
$3,500.
You have the bill?
No. I don't have the bill, but actually I have, from the place that I bought it from, papers of the same year and same bike and same model for the price.
Who did you buy it from?
A private owner.
Tell me about the day that your brother borrowed it.
He usually takes it. He'll ask us to borrow it, and he always tells us if anything ever happens, he'll go ahead and he'll pay $3,000 for the bike if anything ever happened to the bike. The day he asked me to borrow it...
when did he say that? Do you mean, sis, can I borrow your bike, and if anything happens to it, I'll pay you $3,000? Is that what he says?
Well, in Florida...
I want to know. I'm asking you.
Well, what happened is in Florida, you don't need insurance on a motorcycle, and I told him...
You didn't answer my question!
Go ahead.
So you mean what your brother said to you was, sis, can I borrow your bike, and if anything happens to the bike, I'm going to give you $3,000. That's what he said
After
each
I
time
hesitated a couple of times, yes.
Huh?
After I hesitated a couple of times, yes, that's what he said.
Now, on what date did he borrow the bike when it was in this accident?
June 6th of 2002.
Tell me about that date.
Actually, that day, he just, like normal, asked to borrow the bike, and he went on his way. I was with his girlfriend and my fiance, and we were going to a swimming pool, and one of his buddies had told us that he seen our bike on the side of the road with 2 police cars around it, and that was pretty much it. We drove up to the scene where it was. My brother wasn't there at the time. The bike was crashed. The 2 officers were there, were actually on their way to charge my brother with reckless driving before we got there. And he is, at the time, was a fellow officer, and I guess he knew one of the officers there and kind of got my brother out of that. And we went to the hospital. We went to the hospital.
I'm sure he's really pleased that you just advised me of that.
Well,
go ahead.
Being honest. And and we pretty much met him at the hospital. The cops informed us that we had the tow truck coming on their way to tow the bike, and it was undrivable. And that was pretty much it. And I went to the hospital.
And he was in the hospital?
Yes.
How long did you stay in the hospital?
4 hours.
4 hours. What'd they do for you?
They just cleaned the wounds and sent me on my way. I was down for about a little shy of 2 months. Couldn't work, couldn't move.
Why couldn't you work?
Because I had road rash all over my whole body.
So you borrowed your sister's bike, you totaled it. Go ahead. Let me hear you.
The day I had borrowed the bike, I was asked to drive the motorbike to see if there was any knocking noise. Her and her boyfriend had asked me to test drive the bike to see if it does any noises. I took it for a quick ride. On my way back, I was going over railroad tracks. The back tire popped out on me. I tried to control the bike. I couldn't control it. It says I was swerving in and out of the lanes. The total distance from the tracks to where the bike was 370 feet. I only slid about 50 feet to 75 the most. And then after that, when I got into the hospital, I told her I got AAA, go back to the house, put it in a bargain trader, we're on eBay, because she had got rid of a car with a blown motor that way. I said, we'll do it that way too.
I don't know what you're talking about. What gibberish are you talking about?
Neither do I.
I told her not to put the bike in the junkyard, not to tow it back to the house, and I'll be able to sell it. So that way, you know, it's not all the way money out of pocket. So here I am. I'm sitting here thinking about, well, shouldn't she have insurance on it or provided me with a helmet or anything? And the back tire was totally bald. That it started showing spots to the back tire.
Had you ever used this motorcycle before, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times before had you used it?
Quite a few. Sometimes I was stuck with the bike. Sometimes she would ask.
Shh, don't speak.
You ran out of gas.
Don't speak. I'm talking to him. Had you used it more than 10 times?
Oh, yes.
More than 20 times?
About, yes.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
How is your vision?
Good.
Really good?
Yeah.
Good vision. Good enough so that you can tell if a tire is bald or not, right?
Right, but...
Don't say but me no buts. But me no buts. So on this particular day, you say you had not borrowed the bike, but you were asked to do a test drive on the bike.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Baloney.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You were going so fast, the bike was airborne, sir.
Right.
Why?
And it also says...
Shut. That's what it says.
And later today,
You ultimately returned the dress to her in a shopping bag.
Yes.
Rob!
Right. No, you're right. You're exactly right.
That's why I'm here.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christina Irizarry says her brother, Paul Irizarry, owes for wrecking her motorcycle. Paul says because of the bike's bald tire, the accident was Christina's fault.
Let me see the paperwork she has with regard to a bike of similar condition. Then I may just cut it in half because I don't believe a word she says about how much she paid for it, because if any normal person has some bill of sale with regard to a bike.
I also have a police report stating that he was driving recklessly and 2 written witnesses on the report.
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes. It even says that when he hit the tracks, he was accelerating at a high speed rate, that he airborne, did a pop wheelie airborne. If he lost the tire, how can he actually go in the air? Number
I'm going
one.
to ask you this question. I know that you don't need insurance, and certainly
You
I'm going
don't.
to take his
And wear a
counterclaim
helmet.
until I'm speaking.
Go
Don't you
ahead.
understand that?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You may be younger, but I'm smarter.
Definitely.
All I really want to do is read this so that I can yell at him a little bit more and then figure out how much I'm going to give you for your bike. And then I'll let you go with your fiancé, and your fiancé is going to get you outside and say to you, how could you have talked about my job like that? Right? In front of all those people, that he got him off on a charge? Wait until he gets you outside. Explain to her the ramifications of that, sir. Not smart, you know. Well, there are witnesses here that say that you were going so fast the bike was airborne, sir.
Right.
Why?
And it also says...
Shut. That's what it says.
And also-
Anyway, you borrow somebody's property, you don't take good care of it, you got to pay for it. The fact that she is not required to have insurance in the state where you live is kind of ridiculous, because if he had used your bike and instead of just hurting himself, he had killed somebody else, you know who they would come after?
Me.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I probably think you got a good deal on this bike and paid maybe $2,500 for it, and that's what you're going to get. As far as your counterclaim is concerned, it's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Absolutely the dumbest thing I ever heard. You did the wrong thing.
Well, I'm suing her because of the tire, not because of the insurance.
Listen to me. The tire was bald?
That's right.
There's a term in the law called assumption of risk. Let me tell you what that means. That means that if you do something that's dumb, you assume the risk and the consequences of your actions. Now, unless you can tell me that her eyesight is so much better than yours and you could not see that this tire was bald, according to your testimony, you drove this bike at least 20 times in the 2 months that she owned the bike.
That's right.
And that if you were going to get on the bike and if you knew that the tire was bald,
I told
because
him-
you could see that the tire was bald, then you shouldn't have gotten on the bike. You should say, sis, I'm not going to do a test drive on this bike until you put a new tire on it, because the tire's no good. But if you get on the bike knowing that the tire is bald, you assume the risk of anything that happens. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Got me out of a ticket. She was being reckless. I don't think I was reckless driving.
So we don't talk no more.
Fitness professional Jennifer Brodzik is suing her ex-boyfriend, wine store owner Bradley Phillips, for destroying a suitcase full of belongings while on vacation in St. Thomas.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 132 on the calendar in the matter of Brodzik versus Phillips. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Brodzik, it is your claim that the defendant destroyed some of your property. This was while you were on a vacation together in St. Thomas. He was there for a friend's wedding. Want to tell me what happened, please?
We arrived on a Tuesday morning. Everything seemed to be going fine.
It was his friend's wedding that was taking
Yes, it
place
was.
there?
I'd met his friend before, prior to this. And
Were you dating each other at the time?
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And then Brad is not supposed to drink, and as soon as he started drinking later on that evening at dinner, he became quite belligerent. He started, dancing with other women at the bar, and then he He started to pick a fight with a man that engaged me in conversation. And then after that, we went back to the hotel, and he passed out. The next morning, same scenario, drinking again, belligerent.
None of this is true.
Really belligerent. And at one point in the evening, he told me he was going to leave and go with the waitress, and said he couldn't believe that all his friends were saying, why was he there with me? And at that point, I thought he was kidding, until the waitress came up to me and said, are you with him? And at that point, I just knew I had to get away. So I went to the bar at the total opposite side of the place. I was talking to a gentleman. He was going to help me, like, get my stuff out of the room. Brad saw this conversation.
You mean this gentleman?
Yes.
Had you met this
I met
man
him
before?
there, yeah. I met him that day.
Okay, so you just met him?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Brad saw this conversation, and he threw a drink at me. He pushed me over a beach railing. He pushed me several times and started screaming, told me he was going to kill me, he was going to threaten my life. At that point, I called the hotel because I had both room keys in my possession. I said, please don't let him in the room. I just want to get back there, get my things, and leave.
Did he leave at that point?
His friends assured me that they would keep him with them so I could go back safely and get my things.
Go ahead.
And then I arrived at the hotel. The security officer said that the gentleman that's staying in the room had been there 5 minutes prior. As I walked up to the door, he was coming up from the beach, completely soaking wet. And I said, where's my stuff? He said, it's gone. It's gone. I got rid of it. I destroyed it. You don't have anything. And I went into the hotel room, and I just had an empty suitcase. Actually, when I walked in, these are my glasses. They were destroyed, and they were right when I walked into the room, as well as later on that day, my passport had washed up in the ocean. You can tell it's been destroyed. The top of it was ripped off because it's pretty much intact, other than the top of that. And I actually have pictures and a doctor's report from where the bruising had occurred from him pushing and hitting me.
Pushing and hitting you.
This was in the water?
Yes. Or it was on the beach. It was returned to me from the security office at the hotel.
It's on the beach. It clearly wasn't in the water. Can I see a list of the items that were destroyed, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Say cash, $900?
It was in my pocketbook at the time. I actually have a bank statement that shows I withdrew that money prior to vacation.
Well, where was your pocketbook?
It was in the room. I had just a little beach pocketbook that I took with me to the bar. I didn't want to...
And you left your cash in the room?
Yes.
That was silly. People don't usually do that. Wasn't there a safe in the room?
Yes.
Yeah.
So why wasn't your stuff in the safe?
I just didn't...
Cash in the safe. Okay, Mr. Phillips, let me hear your version of the events, please.
Okay. On the night in question, we had been there the first night. Everything had been wonderful. We had gone out to a restaurant. If I was not supposed to be drinking, and if I become belligerent upon drinking, it would have obviously happened the first night, because between three of us, we went through about 3 bottles of wine, the very first night at dinner. Prior to this, 3 weeks earlier, I'd been to visit her in Boston, at which time we had dinner, bottles of wine, went out after that, drank that night also, went home.
What makes you think, Miss Brodzik, that he is not to drink?
He told me he had been in rehab in January, and he's not supposed to drink due to custodial rights and some agreement that he has with his
What kind of rehab
parents.
was he in?
I'm not exactly sure.
Drugs or alcohol?
Both.
Where were you in rehab, Mr. Phillips?
In Center City, Minnesota.
For how long?
For 14 days.
Is that a dry out?
That was not for alcohol.
What was it for?
It was for marijuana. I am in the alcohol business. It's what I do for a living. I am a registered sommelier. I taste wine for a living, and that is what I do. I have not had any problems, never been arrested for DWI, never been in any sort of...
Listen to me, sir.
Yes.
I never knew anybody who went into 14 days rehab for marijuana.
It was part of my wife had a problem with me smoking marijuana socially, and I said I didn't want to stop. She put an ultimatum to me to either do this or we were going to get a divorce. She was vehemently against marijuana. Those are the facts.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Phillips. So let's move on to Tuesday night, sir.
It's actually a Thursday night, ma'am.
Let's move on to Thursday night.
Thursday night, we are out with the wedding party, rehearsal dinner. Everyone's drinking, having a good time, including Miss Brodzik, drinking quite heavily. Everyone's dancing, karaokeing, wedding party. Everyone's having a good time. She says numerous times to me, oh, I'm going to go up to the bar and get a drink. I don't pay any attention to it. She goes up to the bar, gets a drink. I'm sitting there laughing, you know, having a nice evening with my friends. The groom, one of my best friends from college, looks over to me later that evening and says, have you noticed Jennifer missing a lot this evening? I said, no. He says, why don't you go look for her? I said, what do you mean? He says, do me a favor. Go look for your girl. I proceeded to walk around the corner of the bar to the other side of the bar that was hidden from where we were. As I walked around the other side of the bar, she has her hands wrapped around a gentleman's neck as they are sucking face.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was very hurt. This is a woman that 2 weeks earlier had asked me for monogamy. Now I find her with her tongue down another gentleman's throat.
And later today...
Did you ever pay a cable bill?
No.
Did you watch cable?
I wasn't there all the time to watch it.
Give me a break, will you please? I didn't ask you whether you sat there with your eyeballs glued to the television for 24 hours a day.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Brodzik says ex-boyfriend Bradley Phillips owes for destroying her belongings in a fit of jealous rage. Bradley says he caught Jennifer kissing another man.
Go ahead.
I then go over, pull the two of them apart, start screaming at her. Without question, I had lost my temper. I was humiliated. I was very hurt. This is a woman that 2 weeks earlier, when I had been in Boston, had asked me for monogamy. Now I find her with her tongue down another gentleman's throat, which was his quote, as a matter of fact, when he was asked by the groom what happened. So my friend said to her, look, go back, get your stuff out of the hotel room. We're going to take him out. You guys separate. I go out with my friends. I go back about an hour and a half later. I get back there. She still hasn't been in the room, hasn't taken any of her stuff out. I proceed to take her stuff in one swoop of my hands, where I had rented a villa on the beach, walked down and threw her items in the ocean.
So?
Overreaction to disturbing and tactless behavior by her. No question. However, I took on an all...
What was left in the room that belonged to her, sir?
I guess the suitcase. I just reached into the suitcase, grabbed all the stuff, walked down and threw it in the ocean.
Did you take her passport?
No, I never touched her passport, ma'am. Did not rip the cover of her passport any way, shape, or form. Everything was in... I just reached in the suitcase, scooped everything up, and threw it in the ocean.
What about the cash?
Have no idea. Never even saw a wallet. There was a bag there, but I just...
What do you mean a bag?
There was her Louis Vuitton handbag. Was part of it.
Was part of what you
was part of everything that I grabbed, yes.
Okay.
And I would also like to show you the amount for this ruined vacation, which had been going along fine. If she was unhappy with what had been going on the night before, I'm sure she would have been able to communicate that with me. She could have gotten on the plane the next day. To have disgusting behavior at which, in front of one's friends at a wonderful wedding, to end up in a bar kissing another gentleman with all of my friends there and me. This is a woman who pursued me for 18 months on the phone, calling me, telling me that I ruined her life because she couldn't find another man because she was so in love with me. To then taking her away on this beautiful trip, $2,500 vacation, on the second night we're there, I catch her making out with some guy in the bar. I was furious, humiliated, and angry. I overreacted, but nevertheless, it was a reaction to her behavior.
Okay. Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Brad is a raging alcoholic with a violent temper.
She's ready to run around with any guy in a bar who's willing to play tonsil hockey.
This was completely after he said he was leaving with the waitress.
She is nothing but a tramp.
24-year-old surgical assistant Kimberly Orell is suing her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old security officer Robert Stewart, for an unpaid loan and for his share of a trip to Disneyland.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 5 on the calendar in the matter of Orell versus Stewart. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
All right, let's see how quickly we can do this. Ms. Arell, according to you, the defendant is your ex-boyfriend.
Correct.
And he owes you some money. I did the math. I don't quite see where you come up to $5,000. I'm sure you're going to try to explain that to me. The money comes from two sources. One, you claim that you went on a vacation together, and he was supposed to pay you for at least half of the vacation or the whole vacation, and he never did. The vacation, according to you, was under $1,000.
Correct.
And the second thing was a loan that you made to him for some furniture for his new apartment. That was $190.
Correct.
Tell me about the trip. When did you take it?
We went on May 22nd of 2000.
Okay, what were the circumstances surrounding the trip?
He was just beginning a new job. He was supposed to start the following week. We had some time off. He had told me that for many, many years during his childhood, he had wanted to go to Disneyland. He had never gotten the chance to go, and we would like to go, with the understanding that since...
No understanding.
Okay.
He would like to go on the trip.
Correct.
I want to hear your version of the conversation. No
Okay.
I don't want to hear your understanding.
Okay.
Go ahead.
He did not have the front money to go on the vacation, but if I would agree, I agreed to put it on a credit card, in which case there was a payment plan and that it would all be paid back in the next year.
He said that to you?
Correct.
You got your bill from your credit card?
Yes.
How much was the total trip?
The trip alone, $960.
Did you show him the bill?
I did.
And what did he say?
He said no problem. He began his payments, and it was
How many
actually
payments
fine.
did he? How many payments did he make?
He made 2 payments directly on his paid dates.
How much?
The very first one was $40. He followed with $20.
So according to you, he paid $60 in total.
There was another $20 payment weeks later. There was $80 total.
Okay. So he's making these small payments, and now tell me about the furniture.
We had previously, prior to the
Were
trip...
you living together at the time?
No, we were not.
Okay.
At that time, a couple weeks after we returned from vacation, he did have to leave the residence where he was staying with a family member. And he stayed at my house just for a couple of weeks until he did find his own residence.
And?
And he had come here from very far out of state. When he had originally moved here, he hadn't acquired many things other than a bed and such. And being that I had no point to distrust him at that time, I did agree to buy a few things for the apartment for him.
How much did you spend?
It was just under $200.
What do you mean just under $200?
It was the credit card totals of $191.
And he wasn't working at the time?
He was working at the time.
So why didn't he pay for those things himself?
He didn't have any money saved up, and he had made a few payments to me.
Paid $40,
He just had to pay
$20, $28?
Had to pay rent to get into a new place, too.
Okay. So far, if everything that you say is accurate,
yes,
it's $191 plus $880.
Okay.
$1,071. So you want to explain to me why we have a lawsuit for $5,000?
Absolutely. There were other very small charges. His pet was hit by a car, had to have emergency surgery. Veterinary clinic needed payment to receive the animal back, things like that, that I did put on. That was just prior to the trip. That was May 2nd. The unfortunate thing is that I had one credit card at the time, and we used that for the entire vacation, and due to the fact that it was in 2000, because of non-payment, I've had interest for over 2 years on a credit card.
Should have paid it off.
Which he agreed to.
You should have paid it off.
You're right. If I had the money, I would. You're right.
Shouldn't have gone on the trip if you didn't have the money.
Mm.
He didn't have the money, you didn't have the money, then you don't go to Disneyland. You don't go to Fantasyland if you don't have, neither one of you have the money.
It's difficult to turn down a somewhat free vacation with someone that you do trust. I did trust him very much.
No. Listen to me.
Okay.
When did you meet him?
January.
You met him in January. You're going away in May.
Correct.
Right? January, February, March, April, May. Did he have a job in January?
The entire time, yes.
He had a job in February?
Correct.
March?
Yes.
April?
Yes.
So why didn't he have any money? You told me he was living with relatives.
That was kind of the problem. He never seemed to have any money.
Well, then I don't know. I would begin to scratch my head if I were an intelligent girl.
I did shortly thereafter.
Well, you do it shortly before you expend money.
You're right.
I mean, you wanted to trust him. The fact that you wanted to trust him doesn't mean that you had any cause to trust him.
Right. We had a rapport built up. He'd borrowed very small amounts in the past, and he paid them back immediately. I had a lot of trust in him at the time.
Well, so then maybe if he borrowed small amounts and he paid them back immediately, maybe his answer to your lawsuit has some validity. Mr. Stewart, what's your answer, sir?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. Your Honor, we went on this vacation, all right? We started going out on Valentine's Day that February. It was supposed to be like a gift to me, okay?
Why would you make a gift of a trip to you?
Well, Your Honor.
Don't be an actress, please. Okay.
Your Honor, I love her very much, all right? And I think she felt the same way back to me. And I thought it was just, you know, she knew I was getting stressed out at my job. She was getting stressed out, and she told me it was the happiest place on earth. So, so we decided.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I mean, I just have a hard time seeing how, you know, a $400 trip to Disneyland has accumulated to $5,000.
It hasn't.
Okay.
Only in her mind. Only in the fantasy of her own mind.
Okay.
And later today.
I had a lady from Protective Services show up at my door. There had been a conflict at their home, and I was under the impression Teresa was hit, and that's why she came to stay with me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kimberly Orell says ex-boyfriend Robert Stewart owes for an IKEA shopping spree and for his share of a trip to Disneyland. Robert says Disneyland was a Valentine's gift.
Why didn't you have any money to go?
I just relocated to Oregon, and I guess I just really don't know how to manage my money that well, especially at the time. And
were you using drugs?
No, ma'am.
Well, if you were working, you were living with relatives.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And you weren't spending a lot of money on the plaintiff. What were you doing with your money?
I really wasn't making that much money at the
What kind
of
work were you doing?
We worked at a detox detention center together.
Were you working 2 jobs at the time?
Shh, I don't speak to him. All right. Let us say that the two of you should not have gone on this vacation together if neither of you had the money. So let's say you split this vacation.
Well, in that case, Your Honor, I mean, I would say that if you did have an agreement like that, it would be a $400 trip. And we got back, and she was having a hard time paying her credit card. I gave her almost $400 to help her out with her credit card in the first place.
Did you?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have any proof of that?
No, I don't.
When did you give her $400? So she said you gave her 80.
It was just over a period of time. Like I give her $50 here, $50 there.
Really?
I mean,
Do
just
you
to help her
remember?
out.
You remember all those times, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, ma'am.
You got a pretty good memory.
Well, it's just, I mean, $400, that's not that many payments of $50.
Is it cash or checks?
It was cash.
Are you speaking to him?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, I just have a hard time seeing how, you know, a $400 trip to Disneyland has accumulated to $5,000.
It hasn't.
Okay.
Only in her mind. Only in the fantasy of her own mind.
Okay.
All right. We talk about furniture. You're talking about pots, pans, teacups. What about that?
Your Honor, most of this stuff, she was staying with relatives at the time as well. And she asked me to hold on to it at her place because she had it in storage. I had it in my place. As soon as we broke up, I helped load it up in her car for her, and she took it all back.
What about stuff she bought? Do you know?
She bought a couple of things like plates and such, and, you know, we got it from like one of those dollar stores where they sell plates, you know. And I mean, she did buy stuff for me, but I was under the impression it was a gift. You know,
did you ever tell her that you're going to pay her back for it?
No, ma'am. There was no meeting of the minds.
I don't believe that you did either.
Ma'am, I have a witness also.
I'll hear you witness.
Okay, thank you.
Tell me your name.
Heather Walker.
All right, Miss Walker, tell me what you know.
I witnessed a conversation at my home between Mr. Stewart and Kimberly, where he very clearly stated that he knew he owed her a large amount of money. He was going to pay her.
Well, tell me about when that happened and under what circumstances.
It would have been about a week after my birthday of that year because Kimberly and I weren't able to be together.
When's your birthday?
July 11th.
Okay, so in July, you witnessed a conversation. Tell me what you best recall of the conversation.
That they'd visited for about a half an hour. They were going to leave and go to a restaurant. Mr. Stewart said that he did not have cash on him and would Kimberly mind paying for this, whatever they had eaten, and he promised to pay her back.
Now, what did he say? He said, I'll pay you back.
He said, I will pay you back.
I'll pay you back?
Yeah. I'll give you your money back. She made sort of a sarcastic remark about, like the other money that you paid me back.
Right.
That's about the end of the conversation, except for he got a little bit defensive because I asked him why he hadn't been paying. He said, you know what, I don't want to fight about this. Kimberly's already been giving me some guff about it, and I will pay her back.
And did they go out for dinner?
Yes.
And I assume you paid. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I don't recall that conversation at all.
I don't recall you paying me $400.
Listen to me. Don't speak to him. Okay. If you wanted to speak to him, you shouldn't come here.
Can I submit a few things to you?
I'm not interested in the few things that you want to submit to me, madam. Let me explain something to you. You had a romance that ended 2 years ago.
Yes.
Put a period and move on.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Do you see your daughter, Teresa?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, she lived on bad terms, and until she gets her act together, Your Honor, I don't want her in my house because she's a danger.
How's she behaving in your house?
She's a handful.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kimberly Orell says ex-boyfriend Robert Stewart owes for an IKEA shopping spree and for his share of a trip to Disneyland. Robert says Disneyland was a Valentine's gift.
I believe that if the two of you took a stupid vacation together when neither one of you could afford to go on a vacation, the two of you ought to pay for it. I do not believe, Mr. Stewart, and even if I tended to believe that you gave her more money than you said, you had no proof that you gave her more money than you said you gave her, because according to you, she said to you, let's go on this wonderful trip together. You don't go on a trip if you can't afford it, so you have to pay for half the trip, $480, and I give you credit, sir, for the $80 that she says that you paid her back, which means that you owe her $400. Then we get to the quote-unquote furniture. I get the sense that you wanted to help furnish this little apartment for him so that he would be comfortable. Certainly, even if I believe you, and based upon what I've just calculated, I did, he owed you, according to you, $960. So he makes a $20 payment on $960, and you don't look like an unintelligent young lady. He had promised, according to you, to pay the whole thing back in a year. Well, if he makes $20 payments a month, that's going to take him a lot longer than a year to pay off $960. Well, then you're still going out for dinner with him, and according to your witness, still paying the bill. All not very smart. When your head is ruled by your heart, sometimes you do foolish things. And all I can suggest to you, Miss Orell, is that you put a period and move on. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
Parties that excuse when they step out.
I think it's pretty bad that, you have to go to court to solve some problems that can be solved at home.
Let this be a lesson to people. Don't ever lend anyone money. They'll twist it and turn it, and it's just going to be a bad situation either way.
There was no money owed, so there's no payments to be made.
Don't lend money to your firstborn. It doesn't matter who it is. Don't do it. You'll get hurt.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Parker Cruz versus Bumper. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student Brittany Parker and her friend, 19-year-old student Nil Marie Cruz, are suing boxing coach Jada Bumpus for a refund of the money they paid for boxing lessons.
All right, you two ladies go to college, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you decided to sign up for some boxing lessons for exercise with the defendant. One of you paid in full $150. Which one was that? And you are?
Brittany Parker.
And Miss Cruz, you didn't pay the $150, you paid $100.
Yes.
And you told Mr. Bumpers that you would be giving him the other $50 when you came back. Each of you took one lesson, and then you decided not to continue for whatever reason, and you want your money back.
Yes.
The defendant says, no way. Aside from everything else, you stood him up for about 4 classes. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was your first boxing lesson?
November 7th was a Wednesday.
Do you have a contract with the defendant?
We didn't sign any contract, but we had receipts.
Was there any conversation about the 10 lessons? How many lessons you were supposed to take within a certain period of time?
We figured that we'd do it every Wednesday and Friday at 4 o'clock.
And you were supposed to be there on Friday?
Yes.
Did you go?
No, I called them at 7 that morning because I had a family emergency that sprung up on Thursday, so I had to be home.
What kind of an emergency?
Well,
not well. What kind of an emergency, Ms. Parker?
My family was going through a divorce. Well, my parents were going through a divorce at the time, and I had to attend to my mother's needs.
The following Wednesday, did you show up at 4 o'clock?
Yes, we both did.
Did you take a lesson?
No.
Why not?
Because he wasn't there.
Why weren't you there, Mr. Bumpus?
because the class was scheduled for 3:30 to 4:30 was the agreement. It's 4 o'clock is very conveniently, they've come up with this time. It was scheduled from 3:30 to 4:30, and we agreed that it'd be twice a week. Because I gave them a big discount, I usually charge $250 for 10 private 1/2-hour sessions. To college students, I charge $185 because they're college students. When Brittany Parker called me, it was 7 weeks after September 11th attack. Business was slow. I said, I'll give you a $25 discount if you sign up right away for $160. She said, well, I got a friend that wants to sign up. Well, what if the two of us sign up? So I said, well, you bring me $300 and the two of you can sign up.
Does that sound right? All but the time. I'm not sure if it was at 3:30 or 4.
So you're not sure?
Well, it's been a while. This was back in November.
Well, if you're not sure, then he knows, and it was at 3:30.
Whatever time it was. If it was 3:30 that we were supposed to meet him, that's what time we were there.
You don't know that at all. So did you call him when he wasn't there?
Yeah, I called him right away when we were standing at the gym waiting for him.
Did you reach him?
Nope. Voice left a message on his answer machine.
When did you next contact Mr. Bumpus?
I finally checked my my email that day or night, and I found the emails that he sent me over the weekend after the Friday class that we missed.
Well, can I see those emails?
Yeah, I have them all here. The first one is the introduction to his program.
No,
it's about 3 pages long.
Mr. Bumpus, I'd like you to take a look at this email, please, and tell me if you recall sending it.
Okay. This may be. It looks.
It was a message that you sent, sir. I have the other email here.
Yeah, it looks like.
Okay, so let me get the time frame correctly. Give me that back, please. Time frame is they come in and they start and they take one boxing lesson on Wednesday, November 7th. They were supposed to come back on the 9th for another lesson and didn't show up.
Right.
Right? You didn't show up. Now, he's entitled to be paid for the 9th when you didn't show up. He was waiting there for you. He says he didn't get the message. You didn't reach him. You may have called him in the morning, but you didn't reach him. Is that right?
No.
No. But then, come Wednesday, he says you're supposed to be there 3:30, and he indicates that in the email. He'd like to see you between 3 and 3:30. But on Tuesday, sir, the day before, Tuesday, you've already sent this rather nasty email.
Can I explain it?
Well, you sent them.
Can I
You
explain
sure
why?
can, but let me tell you
Okay,
what
go
you
ahead.
said. You said in the email, the price of my classes is $185. You bargained me down on the premise that you would each give me $150. Then Nell Marie showed up with only $100, promising to bring the rest on Friday. Without an utterance from her, you called at the last minute and claimed that the two of you would be seeing me the following lesson tomorrow, Wednesday. And then you write in block letters, wrong. I can't and won't do business like that. Neither of you have shown an ounce of integrity in my dealings with you. Unless you can assure me that you'll give me $10 and Nell Marie $60, the original charge of $160, then I won't give you classes until you meet your obligation, period. So you changed the contract from $150 to $160 in here. I expect to hear from you by tomorrow morning. Otherwise, don't expect to see me. That's a pretty nasty email from a businessman. Go ahead.
They lied. Number one, she didn't call and leave a message at my house at 7 in the morning. I hadn't left. When I got back from Amherst, my tape machine said 1:20 in the afternoon.
I just said to you, sir, she has to pay for that lesson.
No, but I'm just saying.
Now listen to me.
Okay.
They have to pay for that lesson.
Okay.
They stood you up. If you say you made the trip, they're going to pay for that lesson.
But
that doesn't explain this kind of email.
The anger is now she had the family emergency as she presented, but it was Nilmari who didn't have my money. She was going home because it was like Veterans Day weekend. Now the story has changed that she had family problems.
I don't
And
even know if she
Nilmari-
had family problems.
That's what got me so upset, because it was a game, because we had gone over a 2-week period for them, finally getting them to meet me. I don't have time for games. I've trained hundreds of people at that school. I've never had an incident like this. I
can't believe that, sir, when you deal with college students, that you haven't had an incident like this.
Not like this. I haven't, I'm telling you.
This is not bizarre. It's too college girls. One decided to go home for Veterans Day weekend. The other one didn't have the other $50. You, however, Mr. Bumpus, and I'm not excusing that, they were a little irresponsible, and they didn't, they didn't respect your time.
But I took away the anger in a future conversation.
I don't care whether you took it away or not. This said, now I'm changing the contract. It's not $150 anymore. Now it's $160. Well, you've already got a lot of their money, far more than you've invested in the boxing lessons, sir. Far more.
Well, that's a matter of what you think value is. I tell everybody that signs up with me, the first class really is what you're paying for. The rest are free, because you learn so much in that first class. They learned things that they wouldn't have learned in 6 months in the average boxing gym. And that's the bottom line.
Just figure this out. $150 divided by 10 lessons equals $15 a lesson per person.
Numerically,
I
understand. Yeah.
That's my job here. I'm not really good at numbers, but that's what it is. It comes out to $15 a lesson for 1 hour. Miss Parker paid you $150. She took one lesson. She missed another lesson that she had scheduled, and I don't find there's any valid reason, because I think that this is all a lot of baloney, this other reason that you gave me, which means that Mr. Bumpus owes you, if you canceled, $120. And the reason I say that is Mr. Bumpus, in his email to you, changed the contract from $150 to $160, and he can't unilaterally do that. So Mr. Bumpus has to refund to you, madam, $120. And he has to refund to Miss Cruz, who only paid $100, and who also, for no valid reason, skipped a class when he was there waiting for you. He's entitled to be paid for his time. He's got other things to do with his time. And you're entitled to $70. Miss Parker, I don't know what statute you're looking at that says you're entitled to treble damages, which you're suing for, triple the $120.
Under the 93A Massachusetts law.
You're not going to get it.
That's
you have
fine.
to act responsibly.
But that's under the law. That's why I had legal advice to do that.
All right. Well, your legal advice was wrong. You have to behave responsibly in order to avail yourself of a claim that is punitive against him, giving you triple the amount of damages that you're suing for. And you two girls did not act really responsibly. You know, you have to start to value other people's professional time. And his time is his money. So you have to act responsibly. You are entitled, however, to a refund in the lessons that you didn't take because Mr. Bumpus changed the terms of the contract. That's all.
Party's not excused. You may step out.
They both lied so much.
I called just as much time as I had noticed.
iBox Amateur and Pro was managed by former champion Joe Frazier.
I was irresponsible and I'm at fault for that.
My youngest daughter is squad with Jackie Frazier.
I'm just happy it's over and we got our money back.
I've never had this. I've trained 1,100 people, probably 700 students, probably 200 women. Most boxing coaches don't even teach women.
Case number 2045, Vervick versus Baez. All parties, please step forward.
Howard Verbrick is suing his former customers, Angela and Jimmy Baez, for loss of income and the cost of a wolf dog.
Mr. Verbrick, what do you do for a living?
I'm an auto mechanic.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
When did you get into breeding and selling wolf dogs?
Approximately 8 years ago.
Why?
I found the animals fascinating.
Why would any normal person want to own, with 219 breeds or more in this country, in the world of dogs, why would you take a dog that is in part, and you don't know what part, wild wolf?
Howard Verbrick claims his former customers, Angela and Jimmy Baez, owe for the cost of a wolf dog. Angela and Jimmy are countersuing for harassment.
This is your case. The defendants purchased one of your puppies several years ago.
One, yes.
And a couple of years later, according to you, they were looking for a second dog.
Yes.
Did they contact you?
Yes.
By phone?
Through messaging.
Which you have?
Yes.
Okay. And I will take a look at it at an appropriate time. That they were looking for, I think they were looking for a male, they had a female.
Correct.
And you were prepared to accommodate that. Did you give them the price for the dog?
Yes.
What was that?
At the time, it was $800.
And after certain discussions with them, was that price ever modified?
Yes, it was.
To what?
Angela thought that the $800 was a little expensive, and
How much had they paid for the first dog?
$500.
Okay.
The reasoning being they helped me sell some.
No, just years before, they had paid $500. You were asking $800 for this male.
It was $800 back then also. Under the circumstances, if they helped me sell animals, then I would give them a deal.
Did they do that for you the first time that
Yes,
they?
ma'am.
So the first time that they bought a puppy from you, they paid $500 and assisted you in finding owners for other puppies.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Second time, you asked for $800.
Yes,
And then did you make the same deal with them?
I did.
How many puppies did you have?
At the time, I had 6.
Did they come over and see the puppies?
No.
Isn't that usual to come over and pick one, unless you only had one male?
Sometimes. I've sold other people animals throughout the United States by pictures only and updated photographs.
On what date did you go and pick up your puppy?
He dropped the puppy off to us on, I think it was March 22nd.
How far does he live from you?
About 40 miles, 30
So you
miles.
could have easily gone to see the litter.
Yes, correct.
So you chose for him to drop the puppy off.
Well, he kind of messaged us, and we had a phone conversation where he stated that he couldn't feed the puppies anymore.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. I know you have a script that you want to tell me about
Yeah.
because you have something in your head, but that's not what I asked you. What I asked you was you could have gone to look at the litter of
Yes,
puppies.
correct.
And picked out which one you wanted.
Correct.
You chose to have him deliver it to you.
Yes.
That was my question. He delivered to you a male puppy. How old was the puppy you delivered to them?
Approximately 9.5 weeks.
I don't know if that's an appropriate time for wolf dog puppies, but 10 weeks is a reasonable time to separate puppies from the litter and their mother. I know that that's not what I went to law school for, but you require a certain amount of nonsense information over the course of a lifetime. Anyway, did they pay you for that dog?
No.
What was the arrangement?
According to Angela, I got 3 different amounts. She was going to give me a $100 deposit and $100 a week, a $150 deposit, then $100 a week, and a $200 deposit and $100 a week. I got nothing.
At what purchase price?
She was thinking the $500 when I was asking the $800.
That's not what I said. Did you ultimately make an arrangement with her for $500 if she helped you find other pet owners? Okay, let's be direct. So you agreed to make them the same deal with this dog as you made with the last.
Correct.
Which is, I'll give you if you help find other potential prospects for the other puppies.
Correct.
So purchase price was $500, and they did find you other people for the puppies.
1, yes.
Well, they found one. It wasn't specified. They found one. And did you place that puppy?
Yes.
This is what your lawsuit is about. You say that she didn't pay you any money, and the people who you placed the other dog with did not finish paying you.
Correct.
Well, they're not responsible for that person. They're not responsible for that person unless you gave them the dog in order to collect the money. Okay. Or did you drop the puppy off?
I dropped the puppy off at their house.
Then that's your problem. Okay. So then what we're dealing is the $500 that you claim they owe you for the dog.
Oh, plus potential loss of income.
Oh, no, yeah. Be ridiculous. Okay, $500. Let me hear your excuse.
I think that the dog has been abused, and I have video proving.
And?
The male won't ever come around.
Just a second. And?
The male does not like males. What he'll do is he will cower at the sight of any male. He's very aggressive when he goes to take food from you.
He was 10.5 weeks old.
We've had him for 8 months now, and we still can't touch him.
But you got him, and he was 9.5 weeks old.
And he's still the same.
You got him when he was 9.5 weeks old. So that's not a reason not to pay for him. You still have him.
He needs proper care, and we don't feel like we should pay anything.
No.
Not with what we have to deal with the dog emotionally and everything else.
Well, unfortunately, the law does not agree with you. You agreed to pay him $500 for a dog. You have the dog, and you have to pay him the $500 for the dog. That's it. It's an easy case. That was your contract. You didn't make a contract with him for a dog that had a nice disposition. Just pay careful attention. If you want a dog that guarantees you practically a nice disposition, buy a golden doodle, not a wolf. Buy a golden doodle.
Gotcha.
Buy a Shih Tzu. You want a big dog? What's another big dog?
Golden Retriever.
Buy a golden retriever. But If you people are odd enough to think that wolf dogs make good pets, not knowing, because I did a little investigation into wolf dogs, are wolf dogs good pets? Because I get my cases early, and I said, why would any normal person want to own with 219 breeds or more in this country, in the world of dogs? Why would you take a dog that is in part, and you don't know what part, wild wolf? Why would you do that? If your animal is aggressive, go look at its history. Because sometimes they'll grow up to be friendly, nice dogs, like the first one you had.
First one I have is very well with our kids.
You know, this one, I'm going back to my wolf roots. Well, so it's judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
We more or less rescued this dog.
The dog had no issues before.
He cowers down to any side of a male.
That's just a totally false statement.
It's to the point where he's got to get a training.
I hope that it is taken care of, and if they don't want the animal, I'd be glad to take it back and care for it.
We're going to work with him. Yeah, we're not going to let him go.
Just another example of people who maybe not, looked into the history of a dog, a wolf dog.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read about it...
I did a little before the case.
Yeah. And it said that a wolf dog is a mix between a wild dog and a domesticated dog. And they list the names of the kinds of dogs that they have been bred with over the course of the years. But in that kind of situation, you don't know how much wolf you're getting.
It's a risk.
You could be getting 8% wolf. You could be getting 50% wolf. You really don't know. I think that there are some jurisdictions where they don't allow them to be sold as domesticated pets.
I think there are a few out there. I just think it's a gamble, and you have to be willing to assume the risk.
I think that we have totally covered wolf.
Marilyn Bahura is suing her former friend, Douglas Soroki, for storage fees and a wrongful eviction.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2062, Bahar versus Soroki.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Bahura, how old are you?
38.
What do you do for a living?
I used to be a cosmetologist.
What do you do now?
I'm not doing anything right now.
Who are you living with?
I lived in hotels. I'm staying now with a friend for 3 weeks.
How do you support yourself?
I'm on income that comes every month. I'm on disability right now.
Is your disability of a physical nature or a psychological nature?
It's both.
And how much do you collect from disability?
Around $900.
A month?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been on disability?
About 10 years.
10 years? And when were you a cosmetologist?
I started back when I was 16, during high school time. And I started doing hair, and I went to hair school, and then I ended up getting really sick. So I went back and forth to doing hair. And then I just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, you said you were a cosmetologist. When were you a cosmetologist?
During high school years, so it was like around 2000.
Oh, well, that's a long time ago. We're talking about ancient history.
Yes.
So what you're telling me is that since you were in your mid-20s, you have been on disability. Yes. And how old are you, sir?
69.
You're a single man.
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me how you met the plaintiff.
About 4 years ago, she called me. I do auto brokering, where somebody wants a vehicle, and I go to the dealer and try to make the best deal for them, just like a real estate agent.
Tell me how she got your number.
So I advertise on Facebook, I advertise on LinkedIn. So I don't know exactly how she got my number.
How'd you get his number?
The truth is, I never got his number. What happened was, when we talk about, I'm looking for a car, I'm selling, I want to sell my car, he messaged me, hey, I sell cars, I can help you.
That's
2-3
not
years.
true.
That's very true. I have all the messages through Facebook and everything. But he messaged me, I can help you, how are you, good morning. I said, okay, you can help me. But
Okay, I got enough.
Yeah.
All right, so let me sort of outline this case the way I am now putting it all together. You came onto some hard times, harder than usually your life is because of your disability, and you were in your apartment, according to you, and the building had a fire. Because of the fire, you became homeless. You had already known the defendant. He did something for you with a car. And you were living alone, I assume, in this apartment. How many bedrooms in the apartment? It was a one-bedroom. And did you have a lease in that apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much were you paying in rent?
It was $790.
Okay, so you were paying $790 for the apartment that burned down.
I'm sorry, $690. I apologize, $690.
And how long had you lived there?
It would have been 5 years exactly.
Okay, it would have been 5 years before the place burned
Yes,
down.
ma'am.
And
But, Your Honor,
what?
they were evicting her.
At the time of the fire?
Yes,
No.
yes. And then
Just a sec, one sec. Don't shout out again. However, I find that interesting. She was living there for 5 years, and how do you know that she was being evicted?
She showed me the paperwork.
May I see it?
Yeah, it's my phone. Here's the letter that she had with the management.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just see your request for a hearing, and the hearing was for what?
It was dismissed. I had
No. The hearing's for what? Was it for an eviction?
No.
What was it for?
I had COVID, and I had Sarah pay.
Are you not understanding me?
No. A hearing for what? I'm sorry.
I said, was the proceeding an eviction notice?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't an eviction notice.
They don't have proceedings for COVID. They have an eviction case. You may say, I don't have money because of COVID, and they give you time to pay. Were you served with an eviction
It was
notice?
a warning to go to court.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
For what? For speeding, for robbery, for assault, or for an eviction?
For non-payment.
For eviction. Listen, for eviction.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Only because when I told the judge said it's not an eviction.
I don't care what you told the judge. You were
No, he
brought
told
to
me.
court for an eviction.
Your
Kevin,
Honor,
would you return this
my
to her, please?
landlord took $9,000
just a
from
second.
Sarah.
Just a second. Ms. Bahara, let me explain something to you.
ma'am.
I don't know whether you watch me in the past or whether you don't watch me in the past, but I want you to know that I know exactly who you are. I know exactly how you live. I know exactly how you support yourself. I know who you are. I know all of that. So let's not play with each other. You're a smart lady. You've managed to negotiate at age 38 a system for yourself. So when I ask you, did you go to court for an eviction? The answer is yes. You want to explain it to me if I ask you what happened? Well, I paid it, and that COVID, they couldn't throw me out because it was COVID. You're not allowed to evict somebody during COVID. You want to explain that to me if I'm interested? That's fine. But if I say to you, were you summoned to court for an eviction? The answer is
Yes. Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
Whether that had any impact on the fire in this building, I have no idea.
No, I don't. It didn't.
I have no idea.
And
The
when she
plaintiff
said-
says she was a heroine in this fire, according to her complaint, and she got a lot of people out of the building, and the things in her apartment were unscathed. Now, prior to that time, had you done anything other than help her secure a car?
No.
Did you help her secure a car?
No, I couldn't get it because her credit was terrible.
Just a second. Did she want a car?
Yes.
Okay,
Two
what
different
kind of a
times.
car did she want? That's the reason that you met.
The first time, something inexpensive like a GMC Terrain. The second time, she wanted a 2017 or 2018 Lincoln. I think it's MKX or MKZ.
What was she driving when she contacted you? Nothing.
Right.
Did she ever buy a car?
For me, no. But she did get one from a dealer. I don't know how they did it because...
Uncross.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you currently own a car?
No, I don't own a car. Well, now I have a car, yes.
That's what I am.
Yes.
Yet, do you understand? You have to let me introduce you to the truth. Mr. Truth, I'd like you to meet the plaintiff. Do you have a car?
Yes, ma'am.
No, you're only nervous now because you know I understand you. You now have a car. And where are you living now?
With my friend.
Where were you living prior to that?
Hotel rooms.
When did you purchase the car?
March 27th.
What kind of car did you buy?
That was the Terrain.
What year?
2017.
How much was it?
With everything, I think it went up to $24,000.
How much of a down payment did you put down?
$2,000.
And you financed the rest with whom?
They financed it with...
They had to go to a third-party lender.
I don't care. Do I look like I need your help?
No.
No. No, because I'm trying to find out how this lady, who has the sole income of $900 a month, lived in an apartment for $700 a month, managed to save up $2,000 to put down on a car. Car has insurance, car has gas, car has expense. You have to buy food, you need to take care of your hair. Looks like you buy nice clothes, look like you have some jewelry that's more than $900 a month, and you've been really on the doles for a decade. So I'm just trying to square all this with what I'm seeing. Do you understand where I'm going? Great. Okay. Now, so this is what you're complaining about. The defendant, after you called him, said, well, I have a spare room in my condo. You can come with me. And you say, well, I have all my stuff that I've accumulated in my apartment, and I have only one storage unit to put it in, and I'll have to pick through and discard stuff, blah, 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 because I can't afford a second storage unit. And according to you, the defendant said, I'll pay for the second storage unit. And at some point after you moved in with him and threw you out, he reversed the charges, and so you were charged for your storage unit for your stuff. That's part of your lawsuit, $600. Now, the main part of your complaint, for which you want almost $6,000, is for punitive damages because you claim that Mr. Soroki, while you were living with him, rent-free, food-free, everything free, made unwanted advances towards you. And I'm certain that what you did was put in this complaint the most egregious things that he did to you, because you would want me to know the most egregious things that he did to you, right? Okay.
As for the money, the way it was saved, I had to go.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't tell me you had a GoFundMe page.
I did. I did. It was for the fire.
Just a second.
It was his idea, too.
No.
I got it.
Got it? Oh, I'm dying to see that.
Marilyn Bahura claims her former friend, Douglas Soroki, owes for storage fees and a wrongful eviction. Douglas is countersuing for property damage and false accusations.
So let me read to you what you say he did to you, the unwelcomed advances. He would walk around the house in his underwear.
Yes, ma'am.
Just, I didn't ask you anything. These are the most egregious things. And he patted my behind when he walked past me.
Not true.
Now, just a second. Those were the first two things that you tell me that he did to you. Now, how many times do you say he touched you?
Between 7 and 8 times.
7 to 8 times. Okay. When did you live with him?
I moved in March 5th of the fire.
And how long did you stay?
Till the 31st.
Of what?
Of March.
And what happened on the 31st of March?
I was trying to make phone calls to get a car behind his back because he took the privileges from using his car.
Just a second. So while you were living with him, he let you use his car when you needed it. And then he told you couldn't use his car anymore?
So he didn't tell me. What he did was on the 24th, he said, we're going to go to my son-in-law. I sold the car to some lady. Come with me. Let's drop it off, which is the Cadillac that I'm using because he has 2 cars. He ended up getting the electric Audi. He said, just use my car. Now, keep in mind, he's letting me use that car since March 3rd. March 4th, my house burns down at 1 a.m. So he goes and gives a car to some lady. We drop it off all the way.
Date?
March 24th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so that's March 24th.
So I have no more car at this point. So the Cadillac is gone now.
You didn't have a car when you were living someplace else. So moving in with him, you had a car.
Yes.
Which was very nice because you hadn't had a car previous to that. So now we dropped the car off and now you didn't have a car.
Yes.
That's March 24th.
Right.
Then what happened?
I was trying to still figure out, and we had talked
You
about...
tried? You didn't finish to say you were trying to figure out what?
Figure out how to get a car, like to see what I can do.
Okay, so you were trying to get a car.
As for the money, the way it was saved, I had to go...
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't tell me you had a GoFundMe page.
I did. I did. It was for the fire.
Just a second.
It was his idea, too.
No.
I got it.
Got it? Oh, I'm dying to see that. Okay. Now, you were driving his car, right?
Yes.
Ever think about driving for Uber? Seems as if you're perfectly capable of doing that. You drove a car. Go pick somebody up, take them back. I don't know how that would be affected by your disability because clearly you were able to drive. I'm going to get past that. We're back to March 24th. Now you're making calls when he's not around to try to get a car because you no longer have a car. You leave on March 31st. You want to tell me what the circumstances were that caused you to leave on March 31st?
So March 26th, he said, can you please go to a friend's house? I'm bringing a girl over. I said, yes, no problem. It's his house.
Okay.
You can do that. I said, can you please drop me off? I have a friend that was supposed to be my witness today. She wasn't feeling good. Can you drop me off because it's only 15 minutes where he's from? He said, yes, no problem.
And when you slept in the defendant's condo, you had your own room?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we got up and everything was fine. He was rushing me out. We were talking, and as he showed me a picture of who he's bringing, I told Doug, shut my room door because I have stuff in there. So he dropped me off. I went to my friend. It was actually my friend's birthday.
I don't care.
Okay. So in the morning at 10 a.m., I get a text message showing me a one dish plate on the sink. And he's like, you couldn't do a dish? I said, I cleaned the whole house. I said, anyway, I said, should they drop me off or do you want to come get me? I want to come back home. He's like, no, I'll come get you. I'll pick you up. He came, he got me. We sat in the car. I said, hi. He's like, I asked you to do one fit. I said, wait, the dish? I said, I cleaned the whole house and everything. We went back to the house.
Then what happened?
He knocks on the door and he says, pack up. I'm calling you Uber, leave. I said, I have nowhere to go. Where am I going to go? What do you mean leave? He's like, I just don't want you here anymore.
Now, this is on the 27th. He tells you to leave. You call the police.
No, he called the police. I told him to call the police.
No,
Oh, just a second, because you didn't want to leave. Because
didn't have nowhere to go.
Because you didn't want to leave.
It's not that I didn't have nowhere to go. I had no car to leave anywhere.
Well, just a second. Are you living at a hotel after this?
I did.
After this. And how did you get to the hotel?
The guy that I purchased the car from brought it to his house, brought me that car
So
on the 31st.
just a second. So he asked you to leave and you managed to get a car and you went to a hotel, right? What happened between the 27th, because police were called, they came, and they evidently said you could stay?
1 week.
1 week. They
What
tell you
happened
you could...
was there was two cops.
I don't need a whole story. Did they
He
let
said,
you
how
stay?
long would you like for you to have? I said, I need some time. I have nowhere to go. That's when... Yes, ma'am.
A week. But you left on the 31st. Did anything else happen between the 27th and the 31st?
No.
You packed up your things.
Yes.
And a car was delivered.
Yes.
And you left.
Yes.
There were no incidents.
No.
And so just so that I'm totally clear and understand, on the 27th, you were in a safe place in somebody's house. You have your own bank account because GoFundMe?
I have the page.
Oh, may I see it, please?
Sure. In the description.
Okay.
Is here. And that's how much it's.
Okay. My name is Marilyn, and I'm a fire survivor. Place where I lived caught fire. I left my apartment to go upstairs. I knew it was too late for one of my neighbors. I had to scream. I will make a long story short. It's taken a toll on me and everyone else. My main goal was to save everybody. We ended up losing everything because we had to leave the premises, and we were not allowed to go back for 24 hours to remove what was left in our apartment. As for me, I now have nowhere to go, and I need help to get into a place. I had to borrow a friend's transportation to get around, rent out a storage, and put everything there that I can. At this point in my life, it feels like a dream, and so far, you asked for $7,000, and so far you raised $1,772 from soft-hearted Americans. These people got to stay off the internet. I find it unbelievable for a person as strong as you are that if he was doing these things that were so irritating to you, there's the door. And you've managed to find a place to go and find. Don't speak back to me.
Marilyn Bahura has accused her former friend, Douglas Soroki, of sexual harassment while living with him. Douglas says Marilyn lied to the police and damaged his reputation.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear, you raised almost $1,800. You didn't have a car before.
I had a
No.
car.
You told me you didn't have a car before. Is that what you
During
said,
that
Whitney?
time, yes.
She didn't have a car before.
During that time.
Well, at that time is what I'm talking about. At the time of the fire, when you were living at this $690 a month apartment, you didn't have a car. You see, what I don't understand, madam, is that in the whole litany of your travails and troubles with the defendant, it sounded to me, a little bizarre. Taking in somebody he didn't know, dating somebody else, bringing somebody else to his house. But he's a 69-year-old man. He can do what he wants to do. He's not asking you for anything. You pay for your own storage. If you had to pay for your own storage, pay it out of the GoFundMe page. The thing that's most irritating to me is that you now, in order to get money from him, you sued him for sexual advances. And if they were so horrific to you, you've lived in motels before. You've lived in hotels before. You have friends, but it's sort of outrageous to try to convince me that you were so outraged by his conduct and still stayed, and when he tried to get you out, try to convince the police to let you stay because it was your home. That's what I don't understand.
The police said that she has...
Just a second. Do you understand what I just said?
Everything you're saying is not how it happened. Everything's a lie because he gave me the car 2 days before the fire. He told me I have an extra room. I'm gonna help you come clean my house. I'll give you $300. Get back on. This is the truth. I'll get you back on your feet. I did lose my home. I did save people. Yes, I am.
You're not understanding what I'm saying.
I was over there for free. I paid for food. I helped him too. The car he'd give me, I go back and forth, help him bring in his papers to the car dealerships.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think he owes you for? You're going to pay your own storage unit. That's why you went on a GoFundMe page.
He said do the GoFundMe. He called one of his friends from California. He's the one that sent $500. Yes, I saved it. That money from the GoFundMe and from whatever I got from my friends, I saved it to get a car. I said, are you going to still help me put the down payment? He promised the down payment. He promised everything. Yeah. I have proof right here that he promised everything. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. This is all him saying.
Take care of yourself. I find it unbelievable for a person as strong as you are that if he was doing these things that were so irritating to you, there's the door. And what I have a problem with is that some people really are subject in their workplace, in a domestic situation, abusive people. And when you try to use it to get money from, well, that's what you're here for. That's what you're suing him for. $6,000.
Right,
$6,000. $6,000.
I could have.
Just a second. Just a second. Don't tell me you had nowhere to go. You've had some place to go for 38 years. For 38 years, you've managed to find a place to go and find. Don't speak back to me. You've managed to find some place to go for 38 years. And without working, hustle to live. However that was, whether it's through relief or food stamps or disability payments or cosmetics on the side, you've managed to not work and live. Well, that's what you told me. That's what you told me. Don't look quizzically. You've managed to not work and to live. Somebody who may have had ulterior motives. 70 doesn't go into 38, sir. 38 goes into 70. But 70 doesn't go into 38. So I would stay within my ballpark if I were you. Do you understand? And it doesn't belie credulity, which means I can actually understand that a single guy, 70 years old, now has somebody who's relatively attractive that he's extended a hand to come and live with him, and he made an agreement with her. I don't even have to go into it, that she would take care of the apartment, she would clean up the apartment, she wouldn't have to pay you rent, she could use your car, all of that stuff. And there is no question in my mind, in your head, that somewhere down the pike there was going to be a payday. Just a second. Maybe, maybe not. However, the plaintiff has 2 good feet, and she was out of your house, and she insisted on coming, as she calls it, home. I had to go home. And then when the police came, she insisted on staying home. How much time do you need to get out? Because he wanted her out. I need a week here because I have no place to go. Okay, your case is dismissed. Listen, sir, you made a mistake.
I made a mistake.
You made a mistake.
Yeah.
Your mistake just got dressed down in an international forum because there's no question in my mind that this lady who lives by her wits, if she didn't want to live someplace, she wouldn't live there. So your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I am a very humble person. I don't hurt people. I'm a giver.
Well, she knew that the girl was lying, and I knew that she'd catch it right up front.
She's the judge, right? But the real judge is God. And that's who I put my faith in.
You can't do anybody a favor. She had a fire.
And she may have seen me dressed up nice. I'm going to take care of myself, whether I am homeless or not.
She called me at 1 or 2 in the morning, had nowhere to stay, so I let her in.
I'm not going to come as a scrub. I'm not a scrub, so.
People have to be so careful on GoFundMe, and there's no fact check on the internet. There's no way to tell whether she really did lose her belongings and was homeless from a fire or not. People can write whatever they want on the internet. And it really rubbed me the wrong way because I thought I read in her sworn papers for today, she said, I was able to save most of my belongings because my unit did not burn to the ground. And you read the complete opposite on her GoFundMe page that she was using to solicit money from innocent people online. And that really rubs me the wrong way because you're going to swear to this here in court today, but there is no such sworn testimony for the internet.
We've seen a few cases like that, even people feigning illness. And it's actually just a testament of the good-hearted people that live in this country that will give a total stranger, based upon
a caption,
$10, $100. It just makes them feel better. But when you find somebody who abuses it, it really hurts everybody because people will look at these GoFundMe pages, some of which are legitimate, as potential scams.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a woman who lives by her wits, and he's an older guy who should know better.
Also true.
Alyssa Bolio is suing her brother, Jordan Thompson, and his girlfriend, Carmela Turturelli, for personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Hello, Judge. Good. Case number 248, Bolio versus Thompson's Turturelli.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How old are you, Miss Bolio?
I'm 31.
You have 2 kids?
I have 3 children.
3. How old are they?
I have a 10-year-old daughter and 2 sons that are 4 and 5.
What kind of work do you do?
I stay at home with my children.
And how long have you been staying at home?
Since my first son was born.
So for 5 years?
Yep, my first son.
And what had you done before?
Housekeeping, and while I was pregnant with both my sons, I did do beet harvest.
There came a time, sometime, I think, was it last year, that you needed a place to stay.
Yes.
2021.
Yep.
Why?
September 29th of 2020, me and my boyfriend had broken up, so I had stayed in a shelter.
Is your boyfriend the father of either one of these children?
All my children have the same father. Me and him had broken up at the time, and I left from where we were staying at the time. Our living was West Fargo, to the YWCA right away, the homeless shelter. And I was there for like 6 months. And during that time, I had met Carmela, and me and her became friends. And I had introduced her to my brother. And then I moved away for a little while in April, and I came back like the end of May.
Where did you move to?
I went to Texas.
What's in Texas?
A friend.
Where did you meet him?
Here in Fargo when I was 14 years old.
So what brought you to Texas?
That's where he was living, and he told me if I wanted to come live with him there, I could.
You didn't have a job in Texas?
He did.
You?
No, I did not.
And from when to when were you living in Texas?
I left April 15th, and I was there until like...
Of 2021?
Yeah. And then I moved back beginning of June, kind of. And then...
Beginning of June of the same year?
Yes.
So you stayed there for 3 months?
Yeah.
And you moved with your children?
Yep, all 3 of them.
Yep is not an answer.
Yes, all 3 of my children I moved.
Okay, so you took them out of school in April?
My daughter.
Took her out of school in April?
Yep, I did.
Yep is not an answer.
Yes. And we moved.
You took her out of school in April to go to Texas, to live with a friend that lasted 2 months. The fact is you took your daughter out of school. I'm just trying to figure out who I'm dealing with.
Yes, because I had nowhere to live.
Well, there's a big place, but where do you live, in what state?
Minnesota.
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
Well, there's a big difference between Texas and Minnesota. And also, there's only 2 months between April, when school is still in session, and June, when it's over.
Yes, I know this.
Yeah, you know this. You're aware of this.
Yes.
Okay. I set this up because I really want to find out what I'm dealing with here. Now, I sort of know. In any event, you had no place to go. Your brother contacted you. You contacted him, and he invited you to come and live with him.
Yes, he did.
All right. That's what he did. You and your 3 children.
Nope. Just me and my 2 boys.
So you were going to live with your brother and his girlfriend with your 2 children.
Yes.
You got there when?
October.
Of 2021.
Yes.
Case is relatively simple. Case involves your claim that they have property that belongs to you. And they have a cross complaint that they probably would not have brought but for the fact that you're suing them. Because I think that they're just happy that you're gone. You moved in with them in October of 2021 and paid no regular rent.
The agreement between me and my brother was to buy food for the house and to give him money when I can.
Okay, now you weren't working. Now you weren't working, so how are you going to buy food for the house?
I was on assistance through Minnesota, so I got SNAP.
So you got food stamps?
Yes, and then I had child support. Well, I was on child support, but I wasn't getting the money. I didn't start getting money until February of 2022. And that's when I start giving him
Just
money
a second.
every so often.
In October of 2021, you were not getting child support.
No.
You were getting food stamps,
Yes.
which you said you would share with your brother.
Yep.
Who lives, not yep is not an answer, who lives with his girlfriend, and how many children?
We have no children.
No children at all.
We have dogs.
That's fine. So you were sharing some of your food stamps with your brother and his girlfriend.
All of my food stamps went to the house.
Well, that's where you were living.
Yep. Yes, it was.
Yes, that's where you were living with your
Yes.
2 children.
Yes.
Okay. What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm currently unemployed.
And what does your girlfriend do?
She works for a cleaning service.
Okay. Now, there came a time that you got a substantial amount of money from the government. What month and year was that?
Just this past April.
How much did you get from the government?
It was taxes.
What kind of taxes? You haven't worked in 5 years.
It was the child tax credit, and I did work when I moved back from
You
Texas.
told me you hadn't worked in 5 years. I want to know what you got money from the federal government for. That's what your brother says. And I was curious. That's why I asked you the questions about working.
It is.
So don't make it up.
It slipped my mind.
What?
I'm sorry.
So that
did
doesn't
do
slip your mind.
I did housekeeping, laundry, in a hotel when I moved back from Texas with my mother.
Month. You worked from June 2021 until, we'll find out.
Until like mid-June because I did not have a babysitter for my children.
So you worked for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
How much money did you get from the federal government in April of 2022?
Like $11,000 from the government for child tax credit.
So you got $11,000, not from working, not that it slipped your mind, because 2 weeks may slip your mind because that's what you worked, if you worked at all. $11,000, you got child care credits. How much did you get for each of your 3 children?
I only filed for 2 of my children.
How much did you get for the 2 boys?
I believe $3,000 for each of them.
That's $6,000. Where's the other 5?
That came to me for the stimulus checks because I did not receive the last stimulus check. They said that my boys did not receive the refund that was coming to them for the stimulus too. So that was all.
So
on
your
tax.
boys got. Let me understand. Let me understand why this country is in such a fiscal morass today. So you got $3,000 for child care credit for each of your children, and the other $5,000 came because you went to an accounting firm, and they said, well, you should have gotten stimulus money for your boys.
Yes.
And you missed that, so we're going to put in for it. So they sent you another 5, or they sent you...
They sent it all together on one.
Okay. All together on one. So that you had plenty of time to go and take care of.
Yes.
Right.
Your judge actually have proof of how much she did get.
Now, when you got this $11,000, that $11,000 was supposed to help get you through COVID.
Yes.
Paying your bills, paying for rent, buying clothes for your children. So you got this money in April of 2022, $11,400. Okay. And then you went on vacation. In what month and year did you go on vacation?
April of 2022.
So the minute you got the money, according to you,
I start looking for a vehicle.
You bought a car?
I started looking for a vehicle.
So you started to look for a car. Now, you've been without a car for a while, but you started looking for a car.
Yep.
And also in April, you asked your friend, your brother's girlfriend, if she would watch your 2 children.
Me and her had a discussion before April.
You didn't go until after you got the money.
Yes.
You knew you were getting the money before April because you were going to apply for it.
Yes.
Yes.
But when I got the thing where it said I was getting the money back, it didn't say that much.
$11,400. So you decided to go on vacation. Where did you go?
I went to Colorado.
Where in Colorado?
Up in the Denver area.
How did you get there?
I was with a friend and they drove.
Male or female friend?
Male.
So you went with a male friend to Colorado for how long?
I was there for a week.
What does this friend do for a living?
I'm not really sure.
You don't know whether this friend works or not?
I met him last year and I kept in contact with him throughout the whole year. And then we just got back in contact February of beginning of 2022.
And you don't know what he does for a living?
I'm not really sure what he was doing for work.
You have no right to give away any of her property, whether you think somebody deserves it more than she deserves it. Hey, that doesn't require an answer. I'm telling you what the rule is.
Alyssa Bolio claims her brother, Jordan Thompson, and his girlfriend, Carmela Turturelli, owe for the value of her personal belongings.
Okay, so you went away for a week, and according to what I read, you made arrangements with your friend, your brother's girlfriend, to take care of your two children, and you agreed to pay her $400 for the week.
Yes.
And then you went away for the week in April. Did you come back after a week?
Yes, I did.
On what date did you return?
The Saturday right before Easter.
Date?
April 19th, Your Honor.
And then what happened?
I came home and I talked...
April 19th?
Yep, I came home on April 19th and I talked to my brother and Carmela. I stayed at the house for a little while because my boys were not there when I got home.
What a little while?
I stayed at the house for maybe 2 hours and got all my stuff into the house, and my boys were not there. So I believe I went to my sister's house and to my mother's house, and I did not know where my boys were.
Just a second. If your two boys weren't in the house...
I had asked them where they were.
You asked them where you were and they told you it was a secret?
No, I asked them where my children were, and they said that they had went with their father.
So you knew where they were?
When I got home, I knew where they were. I didn't know that they had left previous to me arriving home.
What you got home from being away with a new friend in Denver, and you said, where are my boys? Duh, where are my boys? They're with their dad. So you went to your sister and mother's house, and then what happened?
And then the next morning, we left to the cities, and...
The next morning?
On Easter Sunday.
On Easter Sunday, who's we?
Me and the friend.
What friend?
My friend that I went to Denver with.
So you went where?
Minneapolis.
How far a ride is that?
4-hour drive.
You intend to stay over there?
No. We were going to go visit some of his friends and then come back. But next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital. And I contacted my brother when I did.
You have the hospital records?
No, I do not. I contacted them.
You have, just a second, you have an admission record?
No.
Do you have a bill from them?
No, because I don't get billed.
Of course you get bills. When you leave the hospital, they say either you owe us this amount of money, that's what you get when you're discharged from the hospital. You may not be able to get hospital records, but it would certainly be interesting, madam, for me to know what the next thing I knew after you were going with your friend to the cities to see some of his friends. You don't know anything until after you wake up in a hospital.
As soon as I woke up, I contacted my brother.
What date?
I'm not sure. I don't remember exact dates.
I mean, you have 3 children. What do you mean you don't know what date?
I don't know the exact dates, but I did contact him as soon as I was able to, because I did not have my own phone.
Don't you see how irresponsible this whole story is for a person who has 3 children?
Yes.
How totally irresponsible it is. And what is sad about it is you appear to be an intelligent person who just seems to go from one place to another based upon, well, I used to know him in Texas, I used to know him in Colorado, I used to know him here. I'll leave my 2 boys with Carmela.
And we don't have no children, so we're taking care of her children while she's out running around doing what
I didn't ask you anything. Okay. I can actually visualize the picture, and sadly, so can you. What date did she finally contact you after she disappeared again?
So after Thursday after Easter Sunday.
Thursday after Easter Sunday, so that's the
21st of April. Is the Thursday after Easter this year.
It was actually Monday, the 25th.
We got records.
That's when I came home.
I don't care. I just want to know when you showed up again.
I contacted my brother, and I let him know what had happened. And then he was asking about our father, like I was supposed to go pick up our father.
I don't care. Let's get to the lawsuit. Now that I understand the characters that I'm dealing with, it is your claim that your brother and or his girlfriend took some of your property, didn't give you all your property that you should have had, because they finally said, we've had enough of you and your shenanigans, goodbye.
I did not start leaving the house until that April. I was in the house the whole time with my boys. I've asked them maybe to watch them overnight a couple times, but that's it.
I don't care. They had enough of you. You didn't pay rent. They could say to you, goodbye, we tried to do our best, you took advantage of us, goodbye. Now, That being said, you stayed with them for how many months and didn't pay them any rent, any utilities? How many months? You and your boys?
4.
4 months.
Because I started paying my brother in February.
Paying him what?
Money. I gave him money.
No, I don't
When
want to
I
know who
got
gave him money. Rent. I know that at your age, maybe you think you're
didn't
too
agree
young.
upon a state
Maybe
of
you're too
an
young.
amount.
They either rent their house, they have a mortgage on their house, they have things that they
We
have
did
to
not
pay.
agree upon a set amount for every month. We did not
Well,
agree
don't
upon
you
it.
think you should agree on a certain amount every month? You
But
just
we did
came
not.
into $11,000.
And it was actually way more than 4 months.
You just came into $11,000. You've been living off somebody else's largesse. You just came into $11,000 that I gave you, or they gave you, but you certainly didn't work for. So you say to at least the person who you're staying with, listen, I'm going to give you a couple of $100s a month just to cover my share of the expenses because you're 2 people and we're 3.
I gave him $400 when I got my taxes. As soon as I got it, I gave him money.
Did you pay Carmela for watching
I
the
did.
children?
Yes, I did.
$400?
Yes.
Okay. Did she pay you?
Yes.
She says in her complaint that you sold a computer of hers. She says you felt that she owed you more money because you actually watched the children for a longer period of time than the week that she paid you for when she doesn't remember where she was. Did you sell her computer?
I actually gave it away.
No, I don't believe that.
I did. And it's not
Well, why
her
would you give it
computer.
away? That's just spiteful.
Because it was family, and
What do you mean it was family?
it was family.
I am not your family.
I don't want you to speak. You have no right to give her things
It
away.
wasn't hers, and I have proof right here.
Whose was it?
Who knows? I guess her friends.
But that doesn't matter. It was in her possession.
It was in our possession,
It
actually.
was. She left it with us
I
when
left
she
it-
left.
I left it at the house.
No. That you may think is in your possession.
She asked me to sell it for her.
What?
She even asked me to sell it for her.
But it was not
Just
in your
a second.
possession. It was in my room.
Madam,
Yes.
if she asked you to sell it for her, then you don't give it away.
Well,
if she says, sell my computer for me, then you sell it. Then you don't say, I can't sell it, so I'm just going to give it away.
I gave it to one of the kids in the family that I thought could use it way more than her trying to use it to bail out her friend from jail.
That's not.
And she owed me a whole bunch
Who
more
died
money.
and left you boss?
Well, me in the house because it was our house.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You met her in a shelter.
Yes.
How long have you lived in that house that you're currently living in?
August of 2018, to be exact.
Before that, the lease was in my name.
What part of I don't want to hear you? So you moved into his house.
Yes.
Right. So it's not your house.
Well,
it's his house. And since you're not his wife, you're his girlfriend for now, you have no right to sell or give away any of her property, whether you think somebody deserves it more than she deserves it. Hey, that doesn't require an answer. I'm telling you what the rule is.
Oh.
You wanted them to sell your TV,
yes,
jacket, and all of this is so that you can get him out of jail.
Yes.
Oh.
Alyssa Bolio has accused her brother, Jordan Thompson, and his girlfriend, Carmela Turcharelli, of wrongfully selling her belongings. Jordan and Carmela claim Alyssa gave them permission to remove her property.
Now, you have no right to go into somebody else's bag. If they gave you instructions and you accepted those instructions, please sell my computer for me, which is what you just said. Isn't that what she just said?
It is what she just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sell my computer for me, and you decided not to sell it, but just to give it to somebody else in the family who could better benefit from it. You got to pay for the computer. Period.
She owed me money.
Period.
I have the evidence.
Just a second.
Okay.
Just a second. That's a different story. Carmela, let me tell you something, sir. You look like a very nice guy. You look like a very nice guy. I would unload her as fast as I could.
Oh.
I'm just telling you.
Wow.
I'm just telling you. Because first she says, I gave it away. Let's understand what she says. First she said, I gave it away. Then she said, she told me to sell it, right?
Yes.
Then she said, I gave it to somebody who I thought could use it better than she was using it. Now, I'm going to ask you, Kevin, to go get the 2 pieces of paper that she wants me to review that she owed her money, and then I'm going to go back and explain to your lovely Carmela, listen to me, sir.
I'm listening.
Who I would think twice about. Well, I don't see anything about a computer here. I see that you wanted them to sell your TV,
yes,
jacket, and all of this is so that you can get him out of jail.
Yes.
Oh. I didn't see anything about the computer. I see the TV, I see a jacket.
Here, it's right here.
Just a second. It's not in the ones you gave me, but I'm glad you gave that to me because I have some indication that she did, in fact, ask you to start selling stuff because this is the same person that you went to the cities with.
Yes, and...
yes, when you forgot where you were and woke up in a hospital.
Yes.
Okay, found someone who wants that digital graphic computer. So can you put it in the living room or by my door? So you were going to sell your digital computer.
Yes.
Was it his computer?
It was, but he had given it to me.
So you wanted to sell it?
Yes.
And you say, I'm not giving it to you until you pay me what you owe me for childcare, because you felt as if she should pay you more money because you watched the children longer than a week.
And there's a couple other reasons.
And whatever, and a pair of shoes. I don't care anything about that. You have a bill for the computer?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. No, I don't like this because the date was changed. The date the order was placed was to April 18th, 2022. So this is not a legitimate, it may be a legitimate price, but it says order placed on April 18th, 2022. You want to take a look at that? Because that's phony. Somebody changed that. No, somebody changed it. Okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
When did you get it?
I got it in April.
I don't believe this. Take a look. When did he go to jail?
The 25th
of
April.
What?
Of April.
And you left on vacation with him when?
A week before Easter, so I'm not really sure.
A week before Easter, Sarah. What's the date?
The week before Easter, the previous Sunday would be the 10th, April 10th.
April 10th. And you were away for a week?
Yes.
And then you don't remember where you were?
No, that was the second week.
That was the second week?
Yes. I was in Colorado for the full week, and I came back the day before Easter, and then I left on Easter Day, and then
And when did you get this computer? You see, that's what I'm asking you. When could you possibly have gotten this computer if the bill...
This is dated the 18th.
Of April.
Which I believe they said was the day she came back.
When could you have possibly gotten it from him?
I ordered it for him. I paid for it, and then he gave it to me.
Listen, I suggest you both get your acts together. You get nothing from your brother. Just consider yourself very, very lucky that he took care of you and that he let you come into his house. I would suggest you not do it again, and maybe she'll get smart. She has 3 children. She'd like to raise them together. She should get a job. Find a way of making a living. Figure it out, because you made 3 children. They have a right to a certain amount of stability.
And they all are stable.
That's not stability.
That is
Get it together. Oh, well, sometimes you can't get through to people. They're that kind of thick, and that's why we are where we are in this country. Do you understand?
Yes,
Think twice. I know you tried to be a good brother.
Yep.
Think twice about doing it again. By the way, does your mother work?
Yes.
And it mentioned something about a father. What kind of work did your father do?
I don't really remember.
He was a logger.
Both your parents work.
Yep.
Good. Evidently, it didn't rub off. Thank you very much. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim.
This court is adjourned.
I'm okay with it.
She was a friend, and I love her children. And really, it wasn't about her. It was about them kids.
He won't talk to me because of her.
You need a job, you need to
Change.
change. Something needs to change with her.
I don't really care.
Hopefully she does figure it out. The kids deserve it. He deserves it. He's a good brother.
You know, that case takes me back to my family court days.
Mm-hmm.
And I only have one observation other than the fact that I'm what should be society's frustration with this, which is once you have children, you have the responsibility, your sole responsibility is to make sure that your children are taken care of. You have to say, listen, my social life takes a back seat. Everything else takes a back seat. But I have 3 little kids, and they are my priority. So I have to do whatever I can to put my life in order. And she clearly has her priorities all messed up.
I agree. I think I can understand and empathize with those women who are parents who can't provide a stable environment for their children and temporarily leave them with a mother, a father, a family member, while they can provide for a stable environment, go get a job, go try and find constant housing. But it blows my mind. I can't empathize with leaving your children with family to take care of and then not doing anything to put yourself in a position to care for them.
In a better place.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't have to worry.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Hi, chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng tô màu bức tranh về một ngôi nhà. Bây giờ mình sẽ lấy màu nâu nhạt để tô cho ngôi nhà. là chúng ta đã hoàn thành xong bức tranh hình ảnh một tòa nhà và đây là thành quả ngày hôm nay. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.